Yes, it is Larry Sharp. I am here on the Celebrity Larry-thon 2021. So happy that you guys have decided to join me this evening. It is going to be a long evening for some of you. Some of you, not so much. You'll tune in and tune out. But I'm going to be here for 4 hours. Yes, I'm going to punish myself for 4 hours, but it's not punishment. I love you guys, so it's all good. Some of you may know that as I was traveling the state in 2018, I did many colleges. I stopped by many colleges, and one of them that I stopped by, I've forgotten which one it was. It might have been St. Lawrence College. I don't remember, but it was up in North Country. I actually spent 4 hours at the college talking, taking Q&A back and forth and back and forth. So it's not like I haven't talked for 4 hours before. Now I'm just doing it again. So I'm very happy that everyone has shown up. I appreciate it. I'm looking to make a lot of good stuff happen. And as I was going through this, I was thinking, what should I show you? What should I bring forward? And what I thought was interesting is thinking about what we did in 2018 and what is still valuable now. Smog pops up and says, we're looking for Sharp in 2022. Thank you. The Necromancer says, a new New York. Yes, I was talking about that a lot as I crossed the state. That was one of the things I mentioned, a new New York. I mentioned end the status quo back in the day. And I had a lot of videos and commercials and things that I could have used that I think most people didn't even notice. And I think part of it was I wasn't able to get that message out as good as I could have. I've learned a lot since then. We're raising more money, which is one of the reasons why we're trying to raise money now, right? Is to get the message out. I want to show you a video that we did early on in the campaign, back with a friend of mine. His name is Nicholas Vieser, and he did this video from 2018, and see how it still makes sense now or not.
When I found out Larry Sharp was running for governor of New York, I had to go to the city and find out firsthand what's different about his message and how he plans to improve the state he calls home. We're here. We're in New York City. What matters to these people?
This is my city by my office. Absolutely, yes. So the funny part is,
no glasses.
It's not only about New York. And that's because New York State has so many of the same problems the entire country does, right? Urban versus rural.
Yep.
Right? Division of left versus right.
Hasn't changed.
Transportation problems, old infrastructure, unfunded liabilities when it comes to like Medicaid, Medicare. These are all the things that we're all dealing with, right? Having better education, both K through 12. How do colleges keep our kids here? Jobs going in and out. We deal with all the same things. If there are 10 problems in New York, at least 2 of them are in every other state.
Probably 3 or 4. Now, note all the problems I brought up still here. I would ask you, if you voted for a Democrat or Republican in 2018, any of them get solved? Did any of them have a plan for it? I did.
Why are we saying, how can we get in and out of New York City? What's the new way? Is it a Google road? Is it a driverless car road? Is it that special light rail or that tube thing they talked about that was going to go off in California? Is that the answer?
Okay, so transparency is key, obviously. Libido dominandi, the lust to dominate, the lust to control. That is something that afflicts all public servants, at least according to most people.
No, I think everybody. I agree.
How would it be any different with you?
I don't pander. My job is not in any way, shape, or form to win someone's vote. My job is to show people who I am, what I stand for, what I believe in, and they will decide if I'm good enough or not.
Now, I've tried that a lot, and I think you see that I have tried to be that way. I hope that in the past, I mean, this was 4 years ago. I hope that in the 4 years that you guys have all watched me, that I haven't changed. I really hope I haven't. I mean, now I wear glasses. I didn't then. But yes, my eyes were shot since then. But besides that, I hope that I have been similar in the way I act and the way I speak. I hope I've been consistent. I feel like I have, but I'm a little bit biased.
We are a nation of innovators. We're a nation of second chances. We're a nation of people who've fallen down and gotten back up. New York State has to remember that. That's the way to success.
It's my office at 445 Park.
I think people, when they think of New York, they think of New York City. They don't focus on what's going on throughout the state.
If you are not a New Yorker, yes.
Right. But if you are a New Yorker, maybe you do.
Yeah, particularly if you live upstate.
Right.
Remember, about half our population lives upstate.
Yep.
We're the largest city in America by over double. With that in mind, we're in a small area. Then you go upstate New York. We don't have one city over 1 million. There should be a better connection between the two. Not just that, it should be easier to get to New York City from upstate New York. We have to find that new Erie Canal, right? What is the new Erie Canal, whatever that thing is, that connects Buffalo to Rochester, to Syracuse, to Albany, to New York, all the way out to East Hampton?
Now, 4 years ago, I was talking about the entire state, not just New York City, right? Even 4 years ago, I was talking about Buffalo matters, Rochester matters, Albany matters, Syracuse matters. Yes, all the areas of upstate New York, all the cities, all the areas, all of them matter. Everything matters. East Hampton, yes.
And that's that innovation that you're talking about.
Yes, that's what it's about. Our state right now is all about punishment and bribery. It's got to be about instead innovation and opportunity.
Think about that. The idea of punishment and bribery instead of being about innovation and opportunity. So now when bad things happened, when COVID hit us, did we all of a sudden become innovative and think about opportunities? No, we fell back to bribery and punishment. And I did this 4 years ago. And when COVID hit, what did we do? Bribery and punishment, no innovation or opportunity. That culture that we had stayed. That's the issue.
Is Governor Cuomo's fix for having New York flourish and having more New Yorkers stay in New York this free college system?
Yes, this is bribery, right? So the goal is, here's free college if you go to a state school and if you stay in New York.
Yep.
Most people don't know that for every year you get free college, you must stay in New York afterwards. Otherwise,
remember that plan when we're supposed to get free college in New York, New Yorkers? But wait a minute. If we had free college in New York, if that's true, then how can you give free college away for getting a vaccine or whatever else we did? I thought we had free college in New York State. Remember that? That lie hasn't changed.
It's a loan.
So what about this will be within your ability to change as governor of New York?
One of the examples I bring up all the time is, we have to repair the bridges in New York City, right? They're expensive. How do we repair them? One of the things is, how about naming rights on the bridge?
Remember this one?
Make the George Washington Bridge the Verizon Bridge or the Sprint Bridge, or whatever the case may be, right? How much would Verizon pay for every single day in the morning on every morning news show to say, the Verizon Bridge is clear today, the Verizon Bridge has traffic on it? That's worth a lot of money. Not just that, Verizon now is responsible for its maintenance. If the bridge is a bad bridge, Verizon looks bad, or Sprint, or whoever looks bad, right? So they now care about that bridge. Money comes in, tolls go away, better service in the bridges.
It's great talking to you, Larry.
That plan was good 4 years ago and nobody took it. So I bring this up to show you, I hope that I have been consistent. That the plans that I brought up, I cared about then, I care about now. Most of them I haven't had to change, but who's taken them? Nobody. Nobody. If you want these types of ideas, could you imagine if in 2018 I had gotten on a debate stage and brought that up? The crowd would have been blown away. What? This guy's going to fix our bridges? Get rid of tolls? Oh my God, really? Yeah, no tolls, better bridges, more money for the MTA. Just that concept. Oh my God, it blows people away. And imagine what would have happened if I'd been on a debate stage. No one took it though. It's there. It's still on my website. You can grab it if you want to. If you want that to happen, this run, we can do it. I'm asking you to help me out. We're looking now, and it's a lot, I know, and some of you've already given, I get it, but we're looking now for 100 donors at $100 and 10 donors at $1,000. Larry, $1,000 is a lot of money. You're right. It is. And that's what it costs to get commercials. That's what it costs to get on TV. That's what it costs to do what it takes to make this happen if we want to save our state and I think eventually our nation. That's why I'm bugging you. That's why I'm out here doing this. That's why I'm trying to make things work to the best of our ability. I know it's hard. I know it's tough. That's what we're trying to achieve. I hope you see that and want to help out. And if you can't help out, no worries. You can always like, comment, and share. That's free. That is free, and it's valuable, and it matters. So if you can do that, that still works. Absolutely. You can like, comment, and share. It still helps and makes things work even better because more people see it. So yes. Let me see if I can grab a couple of these if I could. How are you, Sir Keith? How are you? Mr. ESP Keith. Not nobody. I've stolen most of your ideas. Unfortunately, I don't hold any political office. I'm glad somebody's stealing them. I absolutely do. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Somebody is. Absolutely. Yes. Cody says, donate. Thank you, my friend. I want more people, if at all possible, to donate. It would be great. Absolutely. And of course, let's see. Excellent job in the video, Nick and Larry. Nick, that's Nick Visa, by the way. If you guys care, you can check him out. He's on Facebook, LinkedIn. He's doing a lot of great stuff. Absolutely. Joe says, awesome lineup. I'll have to check it out later. Yes, we have four separate heavy hitters coming on. We're going to have Hannah Koss come on first. In about 5 or 10 minutes, she'll be on. After that, we're going to have, hold on, who's next? I forgot who's next on the list. I'm not sure who's next. I think Spike is next. I think it's Hannah Cox, then Spike. Then I think it's Justin Amash, and then it's Olivia. I think it's in that order. I'm not sure. I've forgotten what order it's in. It's in one of those orders, but I do know that Hannah's coming on. She's going to be on in about 1 minute. So those of you who love Hannah, as I do, and as we all do, she'll be. In fact, she's coming on right now. I'm going to bring her on right now. I have magic powers. I have summoned her. Literally, I just said her name, and now she appears. Isn't that amazing?
You say my name, I show up. I'm like your genie in a bottle, Larry.
I love it. It's amazing. How are you?
You know what? I'm a little exhausted. I've been traveling a lot this week, but I'm amped to be here. So how are you?
Tell me where you've been traveling. Tell me your story. Where you've been traveling?
Oh gosh. Well, I was down in Miami with the Atlas Network. Had a lot of our friends down there. Tonight I'm heading off to Kennedy right after we're done. So people can tune in there. And then Saturday I leave again. I'll be in Phoenix for the Turning Point USA conference out there. I'm speaking at that. So, and then I'm taking some time off for Christmas.
Nice.
Very excited.
The holidays are coming. You should have a little bit of time at least, right?
A little bit, right? Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, one of the things I wanted to bring up here is you and I have talked many times, and you focus heavily on economics all the time. I love it. And I did a video. I'm doing a lot of video stuff from 2018. And one of the things I did was a video about Binghamton, believe it or not. And the reason why people don't know about Binghamton is Binghamton in New York State used to be a pretty heavy hitter city.
Okay.
So I'm going to show a video real fast, and we can talk about this video. I did this again. For those who don't know, in 2018, I brought this up in 2018. Let me show you right now.
I'm here at the Binghamton courthouse. The courthouse is pretty famous because it's over 100 years old. Binghamton has a lot of history, particularly for New York State. It's sometimes called Parlor City. It was called that often in the past because of the entrepreneurial spirit that came out of this city. In reality, lots of entrepreneurs took advantage of the Erie Railroad, of the Susquehanna River. They took advantage of these things, and they took that entrepreneurial spirit and it made this town almost like a boom town.
Now, most who don't know this about Binghamton. Binghamton used to be a boom town because what actually happened up there is they called it Parlor City because people would make these massive buildings because they were wealthy and have parlors. And they all have parties in their city. Go to Binghamton now. That's not there anymore.
It sounds
that
like my
entrepreneurial spirit has been killed. And that's a hard thing. How do you deal with that? And again, this was 4 years ago. I'm still as handsome, but I just say no glasses. But yes, it's just 4 years ago. Let me keep going. I'll show you what you'll love this.
A lot of great entrepreneurs came out of here. Problem is, right now, it's not so true anymore. We've kind of lost that entrepreneurial spirit here, not just in Binghamton, but throughout all New York State. We can get it back. We can. We can make that happen again and gain that entrepreneurial spirit if we make some changes in Albany. The problem is, for too long, we've thought the right answer is always some bureaucrat in Albany has all the answers. But we also know in our hearts that's not true. In reality, the entrepreneur has a better chance of success, a better chance at finding the right answer. Innovation has always been our answer. So what can we do in Albany? Well, as governor, we can do three things. One, regulation. Why are there so many regulations on small businesses just like this one? People who want to run a hair salon. So many rules and regulations on how to wash and cut and braid hair. Why are so many licenses required? This is all extra money and barriers to someone who wants to start anew and become an entrepreneur. We can retain safety and still not have a crushing amount of regulation on small businesses. The second piece.
So let me touch that if I could. I know you're probably chomping at the bit on this one, so I'm gonna let you go a little bit, Hannah, but I talked about this 4 years ago. What I think most people don't get is that in every situation, the entrepreneur is going to have a better chance of finding the right answer than government. I think it's every time. I mean, you talk about this, don't you?
100%. You're spot on. I mean, at the end of the day, people need to be able to be flexible. They need to be able to go where the money is. They need to be able to make adjustments. They need to be able to be resilient. And we take a lot of this away from them when we put all these layers in place. And not only that, but we prohibit a lot of people from ever beginning to try to experiment and try to test the waters. You know, I often look at people like Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, titans of industry, people who've done amazing things. But the reality is that a lot of those people who get to this peak level in our country are people who are already coming from money. And there's a reason for that. It's that when you put all of these government barriers in place, when you make it expensive to merely get a license to open a business, you prohibit people who could be every bit as innovative, who could really radically change the quality of life that we enjoy, but they never get that shot because they can't raise the $1,000, $2,000 it takes to get a license, to get a business license. You know, I work on the side a lot. I work full-time for fee, of course, but I have lots of contracts and I'm very entrepreneurial. There's a reason it's not my full-time work. Having the ability to get enough money to start a business full-time and be able to have enough money where you can take the risk you need to take, that's substantial for most people. And so what we do is we kill that entrepreneurial spirit. We ultimately harm our society at large because we never get to benefit from the gifts that so many people would bring to the table. And we know that most importantly, we keep certain communities down because they have always been historically harmed through governmental policies. And so they're already starting from behind. And then they are even less likely to be able to get ahead in this kind of method.
Well, the environment I just spoke about in that video came hardcore when it came to COVID. And we should have learned, right? The reason why we were able to get vaccines, if you want vaccines, right, the vaccine so quickly, wasn't because government made the vaccine. It was because government said, we'll buy a bunch of vaccines if someone makes them. That basically is what Warp Speed was, right? Warp Speed was basically, we guarantee we'll buy a whole lot if you make it. And they went, whoa, let's go make it. And we got 3. We didn't get 1 vaccine.
Right.
We got 3. If the government had made it, we'd get maybe 1. That's about it. But we actually got 3. And now we got a pill. And now we got all kind of stuff because of that idea that innovation actually worked. Sadly, it was for big business only. But still, the idea is still the same, right?
Yeah. Well, and what else did we do? We got regulations off their back. You know, we not only said that we'll incentivize the production of it, but we also said we're going to remove all of these arbitrary government layers that we've put in place in our healthcare system for over a century that stifle innovation, that make it too expensive to take risks, that prevent more people from bringing products to market, and that slow down even the innovators who do take on those risks and develop drugs, right? So you would never have seen a product come to market as quickly without government getting out of the free market's way. But that should speak volumes to people. It says 2 things. It says, 1, they know those things are not in place for substantial public health and safety reasons. That's BS. And we have to call them on that. I've known it for a long time. You've known the general public better wake up to this. They know that it slows things down. They know it makes it more expensive. And they do that for their select crony friends in this industry that keep lobbying them. And it's just this constant circle, that they have going, and it needs to be permanently done away with. It's infuriating.
What the worst part is, if you can take away the regulations in a scary time like now, right, well, then why do you need them when it's safe?
That's exactly right.
Right?
You have no excuse. And I think
if anything, right, in theory, if it's really because of safety, you'd want to put them in now because we're rushing it.
Exactly.
Right? We're rushing it now. So now in theory would be the scariest, most unsafe time. So you'd actually want more regulations in now because we're rushing it. In reality, the opposite. It's just let it go, whatever happens. Oh, now it's safe?
Right.
Yes.
And then you know what they're going to do is next year they're going to start saying, oh, we need to start putting some of these regulations back into place. Telehealth is too dangerous. It's too expensive. It doesn't work, And I mean, what's happened in the past 2 years has been catastrophic in multiple ways, and it's harmed people. And I never want to paint it as anything other than that. But I do see some silver linings, and I try to be an optimist. Larry, you're an eternal optimist. I love that about you. There's some silver linings to some of this, and that is that some things are being revealed to some people. I'm not saying that all of America's public is waking up and being radicalized. They unfortunately are not. But it doesn't take the entirety of a population to wake up and become radicalized to get change. In fact, we have a lot of great data that shows you actually only need about 3.5% of the population to join a political cause. And they've studied this in our country throughout history. They've studied it in other countries. And they found that when a political movement secures that 3.5% of the population who's really animated on an issue, it doesn't fail. It doesn't fail.
There we go.
So if we can galvanize that outrage and the people who are waking up to the corruption of our government and direct it towards removing these kinds of things permanently, truly getting government out of the free market, really standing up for individual liberty, I mean, that could radically change our country. It could look very different in 10 years.
Wow. I love that. I agree with you. Yes, absolutely. Chris says, the worst part is, as plainly logical as this argument is, it's Greek to so many, out of touch and untouchable. I'm not sure, right, that it's out of touch. I feel like, and Hannah, tell me if I'm wrong here, I feel like a lot of people have just given up and they're not hearing it. Like, you could touch them, but they're just like, I've heard it. Nothing changes. I don't care. I feel like there's a lot more of that than anything else. Am I wrong on this?
No, you're not wrong. And I see this all the time. I see it especially in my social media, but I see it as I'm speaking around. People get excited when they hear me talk because, and this is one thing I've really tried to dedicate myself to, I never come in and just say, no, not this. I always try to have a but this and direct them. And I found that this is true with people on the left or right. We tend to agree on a lot of problems. And the problem that we really face, the hurdle we have to overcome, is not that our views are so out of touch. It's that they have not been well explained or defined. And so when you come in and say, no, not government healthcare, well, then what? Right? What does that look like? What is the solution? Because you cannot just say, no, healthcare is a massive problem in this country and only getting worse. But I've seen their eyes light up when I talk to people about things like direct primary care. This is a simple model to understand. It basically is just like a gym membership to your doctor, and you pay about $50 a month and you get unlimited access to services. And typically they can negotiate things cheaper for the patients, like blood work and labs. And it cuts insurance out, which I love, because insurance is this really crony, gross industry that's just been like this with government for, decades and decades. And they make everything more expensive and they restrict supply. And as a whole, if you can cut them out, we can really quickly get back to what healthcare looked like 150 years ago, which was cash-based services, directly working with your doctor, the ability to negotiate prices. These things are obtainable. And the best thing is they can be done locally. You don't even have to go convince Congress. You can pass laws to protect direct primary care at the state level. That's energizing to people when I say that, because one, it's a practical thing. Two, there's easy ways they can get involved to do it. And three, it's like this nonpartisan, option where why would anybody on the left or right not like this? I think there's so many things out there like this. Our problem is that we have not done a good job going and meeting people where they are.
Yes.
And actually explaining what putting our ideas into practice would look like.
Absolutely. And I feel, John brings it up. He says, healthcare is too expensive, but universal won't work. People need to shop for medical service. And this, I think, John's hit it perfectly. What he's saying, what you're saying, which is, this is what people say. It's too expensive. Universal won't work. So nothing. They're not doing that, as you said. And here is something. They're not doing that. They're going, universal won't work. Okay, but I'm in trouble. Well, it won't work. Well, but I'm in trouble. You've got to give me something. And then here comes someone who's a socialist who goes, I have this magical thing called socialism, which as soon as you get it, everything will be awesome magically. And I go, I don't have any answer. Your answer sounds magical. Maybe I'll go with your answer. It sounds magical. But if you gave them a real answer, they go, oh, That's real. I like the real one better than the magic, but they like magic better than nothing.
Yes, that's really well said. And Larry, you said something else so well at where were we this summer? Freedom Fest. We were at Freedom Fest. We were on a panel together, and somebody mentioned the old, famous quote that says facts don't care about your feelings. And you said, but I'll let you take it over. But you push back on that in a really great way. That is important.
I said feelings are far more important than facts. Feelings make up facts. Feelings ignore facts. Feelings change facts. Feelings do everything. Feelings are way superior to facts. And not even close. So we should care a lot about feelings because feelings change everything. People don't vote on facts. They vote on feelings. And I'm going to give Bill Maher credit here. Bill Maher said this about a month ago or whenever, one of his shows. He was saying, I'm going to paraphrase. He said something like, I'm talking to my friends, right? And my friends who are liberal, they say, I don't understand why these, conservatives vote against their best interest. And what he said is, I'll tell you why. Because they hate you. That's what he said. Because they hate you. He said, we have a world where each side hates the other. And so we vote against the other. Right? I mean, I think a lot of people would argue that in 2020, Biden won because people voted against Trump. And in 2016, Trump won because people voted against Hillary. Now, I don't know that to be true. But me even saying it, there are a lot of people going, yeah, it's probably true. Like, that's believable. Because that's our environment, right? That's a believable statement. Again, I don't know if it is true, but that should not be believable. Like everybody should say, no, you vote for the right person. That's what we would like to say.
Right.
But it's believable that it's not. And I think that's a big problem. We're voting against stuff and not for anything. And as a business coach, I always tell people, a career coach, I tell people this. I never want you running away from something. I always want you running towards something. Right? I don't want you running away from a relationship, away from a job, away from a career, because you will go to whatever is there and it probably won't be good. But if you look at where you want to go, what relationship, what job, what career you want to go to, and you run towards it, you got a shot at having some success here, right? I mean, still might fail, but you've got a shot at some success if you're going towards something. And in politics today, we're running away. We're not running towards anything.
It's a great point. And there's not much to run towards when you look at the two-party system, but that's where we come in. And that's what I think is invigorating about the work that I do. It's why I stay energized to do it and take it even out of a party, just issue advocacy, looking at the solutions and finding real ideas and innovative ways that we can approach problems. Because at the end of the day, politics really comes down to the ability to solve people's problems. That's what they're looking for. And you don't have to like that. I know libertarians want to get out here and no, but the reality is where most people are when you're talking to normies, which is where most people are, they are worried about the problems they face and they want to know, what are you going to do to help me address them? Because most people do not feel strong and they don't feel capable and they don't feel like they have the tools that they need to go out and conquer their worlds and fix their own problems. And that's just reality, right? And that's why you have leaders. And not everybody's a leader. There's a small number of leaders, and that's okay. We don't need millions of leaders. We'd be, all over the place. But most people are followers, and so they need leaders to come in and show them, here is how we can fix your problems. Here is how we can address your needs. When you look at things like healthcare, when you look at things like most of the main issues in politics we fight about, these are emotional issues, and they're emotional to people because they impact their day-to-day life. And so you just coming in and telling them work harder, pull up your bootstraps, or saying, we're not going to look at these ideas don't work. You're not addressing their problem, right? You've done nothing. You've been condescending. You've made them feel bad about themselves, and you've taken away, the illusion they have that this other thing could work, and you've left them with nothing. So that's where we have to get to. I want to make this point because I think it's so essential. You can't get to that point until you get to another, which is actually knowing those people in order to have conversations with them and hear about their problems and care about their problems, because you firmly don't believe you can care about people you don't know. You just don't. Well, the empathy can't be there.
Yeah, there are two parts I want to bring up. This is great points. The first one is, there's an old saying, which I always bring up 1,000 times. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's the most important thing. You got to first care, right? Then they go, all right, okay, she cares. Okay, let me hear her. But if they think you don't care, they don't care what you say. It doesn't matter if it makes sense, right? Because she's just someone spewing smart stuff. Whatever, doesn't matter. but she cares about me. Okay, now I'm paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
People teased me and they say, Larry, you spent so much time crossing New York State. You did it every year for 4 years. It's how I know, right? So people often laugh. They go, Larry, whenever you say stuff politicians don't say. You say what's actually happening. Like I talk about how bad the farmers are, how bad their situation is. I talk about how bad the school system is. Why? Because I've heard the stories 400 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the actual stories. I'm telling stories of real people. They can't tell me I'm lying because the person's right there going, no, I told him that happened to me. So it's not, you're totally correct. It's why I spend so much time doing it. And I'm also on the phone calling people. Like I call all my supporters and I call them on the phone because if they don't believe in me, if they don't know that I care, they're not going to support me. Mm-hmm. That's how it works, right? I have to make that happen. You're completely right. And people have said, Larry, I feel like when I'm in front of you that I matter. And there's a reason why. Because you matter. That's the reason. Because you matter. And a part of it in a way is selfish in a way, to be forward. Because if I don't have you in front of me, if I'm not hearing you, how can I possibly speak anything that will land? To your point, Hannah, if I don't know them, I'm just going to start saying stuff. And they're going to be like, whatever. Mm-hmm. I've got to be able to say what they care about. So yeah, it's 100%. I love what you're saying. It's 100% true. 100% true. Can I grab a couple comments? Is that okay?
Oh, please. Let's hear them. As long as they're nice.
Some are. Jonathan asked a question. He says, as a civil libertarian, what issues are near and dear to Hannah? And what can we do to overcome the political divide that is forced to extremes? I think you kind of covered the political divide a little bit. But do you have some civil libertarian issues that are like really there for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's my top issue is civil liberties. I care so much about everything under that umbrella. But I think what happens is when one's under threat, I get way more like territorial over it. So right now I'm really hot on freedom of the press and free speech. I think it is under attack by all sides. I'm really worried. I don't know how closely people have followed the Julian Assange case. I personally have not followed it that closely. It's because it's mostly been happening internationally versus here. But it started to gear up in the past week because the U.S. has been appealing the UK's decision on whether or not to extradite him. And if they do, he faces life in prison here for what will certainly not be a fair trial under trumped up charges of espionage. And so I've started immersing myself in this case. And the court said last Friday in the UK that they will extradite him. So that could change. But as of right now, he's getting shipped back over here. And I was literally in tears. I was just so upset because we have so few real journalists left.
Yes. Absolutely.
So few. They're not doing their jobs. And our founders knew, they talked about this heavily. We cannot have the system of government that we're striving for without a press informing people of what their government's doing hard-hitting investigative journalism, doing nonpartisan journalism. And what's happening to Assange is a human rights violation, but it also is really scary because, the U.S. has been sort of a beacon when it comes to free press. Most countries don't have our First Amendment. They don't protect speech. They don't protect the press. And we see journalists are frequently murdered, abused, in prison. Like it is, people who are real journalists, who are real threats to the power apparatus here or globally. That's what they face. And so the U.S. has sort of been a beacon. And now that it seems we're moving away from that as well, that's the scary times. And we know that will incentivize other journalists from doing their jobs as well.
But there's a second part to this that's even worse at a larger level, which is it also scares whistleblowers.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So both. It scares the press, obviously. But if there's no press to protect the source, if there's no press to protect the whistleblower, then the whistleblower also says, I see nothing, right? And once you start saying, I see nothing, that's when all the bad things happen, right? I bring this up constantly. If you look at most of our bureaucrats, I'm not mad at someone for having a government job. If you got a good job, you're paying your bills, good for you. Have a government job, whatever. Have the job that pays your bills, good for you. The problem we have is you have a system within the bureaucracy that says, I can't push back at all. And so there are a lot of people who are enforcing rules that they know are useless and stupid, and they know it. Like if you ask them, you say, this makes no sense. They go, yep. So why didn't you push back? I can't.
Right. And they're not wrong. You know, I read Edward Snowden's book recently, and he was talking about how so many people have said you should have gone through the whistleblower channels. And the people that he was going to blow the whistle on were the people that he would have gone to in these channels. Had it not been for the media, he could never have leaked what he leaked. And he went through great strides, as did Glenn Greenwald and the others that helped him get that information out, to even be able to do that. It's really hard to be a whistleblower. Chelsea Manning, who, you know, Assange reported on the disclosures, she brought him. She's been in and out of jail. She's had solitary confinement. She's faced serious mental duress. And that's where we're at, even with people like Assange and Glenn Greenwald out there. I can't fathom what happens down the road. Yeah. And ultimately, the things that they've revealed are things the American public needed to know. We were committing 100%. War crimes. We were spying on American citizens. These are very serious things that I think most Americans would ultimately just be utterly in the dark about. So I'm really hype on that. I love that question. The way I think to overcome political divides, I think actually is through civil liberties, because I think there's still enough people on the left that care about these issues that when you work on them, it builds real bridges, because they find out you care, you know, as you said. And I've had that said to me multiple times by very left-wing people, very progressive people. Specifically when I was working on the death penalty, you know, they were sort of a little hesitant around me, like, who is this girl showing up? What is she here for? And then after working around me and seeing that I was genuine and I really cared about civil liberties issues, the guard would drop. They'd be so much more comfortable with me. And then we'd form relationships, and relationships are how you ultimately move people on other policies. So through that, I saw people I worked around start to move a little bit more towards libertarian circles or become outright libertarians after working around me. So I think that's how you do it. This is a great way to start working with people who are different than you, get to know them, hear about the other things that they're facing, let them see you care, and then build bridges and expand that work hopefully to other things as well.
Well, I think most people don't realize that the left's tradition is civil liberties. Mm-hmm. They've lost that in the last, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it's been. But if you go back to the 50s and 60s, the left was about civil liberties, right? That was their thing. Yep. They've lost that. But you're right. But that's not true. The establishment has lost that.
The party.
Yes. But the actual person, a lot of them actually are totally still about it. Right. They're still about it. You're right. You can get those people. The establishment, you can't. But the actual individual voters and the people on the ground working, yes, many of them are absolutely still about that. Yes. Mm-hmm. So Jonathan says, Larry's exactly right. People who are desperate will believe in magical solutions. Yep. We need to give real solutions or we're missing the boat. Jonathan's 100% right. Yes. The if I can say it right, Hibernial says conservatives with good intentions wanting a political win to the point of policy compromise year after year also proves people care about feelings over facts. It comes from a standard in the culture. Well said. So you're saying that conservatives are shifting because of the culture? Is that what he's saying?
I think what he's saying is that conservatives, when they feel like they're losing in the culture, will pretty quickly become emotional and look to big government magical solutions as well. And we see that right now with big tech. I think that's the number one area you see it. They feel like they're losing the culture. They feel like they're losing that battle. Instead of saying, how do we, promote more competition? How do we fight back in a free market, limited government way? Instead, I do say they feel that way because they're not wrong that there might be some censorship against them. They're not wrong that there's some problems, but to the scale that they think it's happening, they are wrong as a whole. Some of the top users on these platforms are pretty right-wing people, Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk. You constantly see their material stuff. I'm a libertarian. I feel like Facebook promotes me pretty heavily. I mean, I get great numbers from them. So yes, there are.
I get shadow banned constantly.
Do you?
Constantly.
They like me.
It is horrible. I get shadow banned constantly. Maybe is it because I'm blue checked? Is it because I'm running for office? I don't know what it is, but man, they shadow banned me, and it was so obvious when it happened. It started when I was talking about lockdowns. Boom, shadow banned, like almost overnight. And really hard. And
I think that does happen, but I also think the reverse happens where like FEE had its best year ever last year, pushing obviously very heavy anti-lockdown, anti-COVID narrative articles. We did phenomenally well. So this is what I mean. It's not wrong that it happens, but to the scale that they think, just like they think that, Facebook and Twitter are equal. When you look at the actual data numbers, Twitter's not even the top 10 platforms worldwide of users. So they miscalculate the opposition that they're up against. And then what they want to come in with is using the government as this sledgehammer to put these companies in their place. And what you see them doing is selling out all these values they espouse, because these are not limited government or free market responses. And they very foolishly empower the very government that they think is colluding with these social media companies to censor them to have more power to censor them. And they want to empower things like the FTC, which is run by a super progressive socialist. You want them to have power. It makes no sense, but they're emotional. And they make this mistake where they look to magic solutions. The government has never fixed anything. It's never made anything more equal. So it's just as silly as thinking that socialism can work to think that government can come in and regulate something and make it better. There
we go. I like that. So Rebecca knows, she goes, I like seeing Hannah guest spot on Fox's The Five and Gutfeld, giving the deep red some common sense ideas on civil liberties. So you have a fan.
Hey, Rebecca, thanks for tuning in.
So there we go. We have some, I do love that. So yeah. Missy says, I agree with freedom of speech. It worries me too, for good reason. So you got some people who are definitely on your side here. So I think the other aspect here is if we're able to get individuals to take a bit more responsibility personally, and that's challenging, right? That is challenging, particularly when we spent so much time saying, don't do that, government's got you. I think that can be scary, but I also think it's empowering. When people begin, one of the reasons why there's many reasons why I'm pro 2A, but one of the reasons why I'm pro 2A is once an individual becomes pro 2A, I see it constantly, they become more concerned about their own personal safety, their own personal everything. They realize they have a firearm that could be potentially deadly in their hands. And they start thinking, you know what? I need to be more responsible with how I deal with what's going on in my life, with everything. It's one of the reasons why I like it so much. I mean, there are other reasons, obviously, but I think that's an issue. You want to draw people into a world to where they can be more responsible and believe that their community will support them. The other good thing about things like the 2A is it is a community, right? People will support you. It's one of the reasons why I supported the vaping industry. People say, Larry, you support the vaping industry. Yeah, I don't vape, but I support it because if you ever go to a vaping store, it's a community. Literally, it's people trying to stop smoking, people trying to lose weight, people trying to make a better, healthier lifestyle. And they come together and they talk and they play video games or sit in a couch. You go to a vaping store, there's like a couch in every store. There's a video game in every store. There's a pinball machine in a store. And they're all there kind of having that community. They're taking responsibility for their own health and the community is supporting them. And I just feel like if we had more people doing that, we would just have a better world. And am I being too pie in the sky, Hannah?
No, I think you're actually very grounded. I think, again, when you get to know people who are different than you, a lot of this animosity dissipates and you actually can really start to come together and figure out the common things you care about and come up with real solutions. I think the problem we've had is in this country, we don't know one another. We have tons of psychology around this, but you're so unlikely to know. And when I say no, I don't mean like, oh, I know this guy. I mean, like you have them in your home. You're good friends with them. Somebody who's of a different ethnicity or religion or political viewpoint or social status, and because of that, you not only does it become very easy to like fearmonger and stereotype people and attribute all of these like really bad motivations to them, but it also becomes really difficult to understand where they're coming from. And I'll give this as like a silly example, but right before COVID, I was going to take an international trip. And the person I was traveling with was booking the tickets. And they said, do you have a passport? And I was like, yes, everybody has a passport. And they were like, no, everybody most certainly does not have a passport. But in my world, everybody has a passport. I've never met somebody with a passport. Like, what? So that's just shows you how like quickly you can become disconnected from other people and like, what is their life like? What is their world like? What is their cultural experience like? If you think about not having a passport, what do you know of other worlds? How much have you traveled? How much have you seen people? So those things impact your mentality. They impact how you see the world. And if you don't know those people, you can't really put yourself in their shoes. Therefore, you're so much less likely to care, but also to be able to come up with solutions that would be good compromises, right? Or good ways to move forward. And so I think that having those kinds of communities, finding something maybe a little bit abstract that can bring in all kinds of different people, that's awesome. I think that actually, that's what the church should be doing. I'm gonna get my high horse preacher's kid, but like that's what the church should be doing. And instead we see the church as every bit as segregated as it was, 50, 60 years ago. But I think so many things would be solved. And to your point about the firearm community, I saw that as a woman, especially, that was one of the first things I ever worked on in politics. I was doing it on the side when I was still working in music, and it was in Tennessee. And I was really passionate about helping find young women and like convincing them to get their permit and learn to shoot. And it's so empowering for people.
Yes.
And it really is something that I think motivates them. For women, it changes your life. It changes your life. The ability to defend yourself, to actually be equal to a man in the streets. You don't come back from that, right? You just don't. It really does give you this sense of independence and individualism that I think is so needed in our country.
100%. I love that. I taught my wife how to shoot years ago. Changed her whole mindset. We had to leave New York State. We couldn't do it in New York State.
So, right, I was going to say, where did you do it?
Yeah, we left. We was this Pennsylvania? Maybe, I don't remember. Might have been Pennsylvania, but this is several years ago. I took her to another state because you can't do it in New York State, right? So we went there. We and she was like, "Wow, this is amazing!" Like she felt, like you said, empowered. And she was a person who, and I tell a story often. I was doing a fundraiser in Oklahoma years ago, and when I was there, many people open carry. Right. It's a common thing. So libertarians, everyone's packed, right? Everyone's carrying, right? So we're in someone's house doing a fundraiser and someone takes a picture and you can see that some people are carrying, right? So my wife looks at the picture and goes, "Oh my God, those are guns?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Weren't you scared?" I said, "It's the safest place I could possibly be." Yeah. If someone comes and breaks into that house, they are going to have a bad night. They really broke into the wrong house. They really made a mistake at that point because they're going to have it's not going to end well for them. So I'm in the safest place I could possibly be. How could I felt amazing. I had, a dozen people who loved me who were all carrying. I'm good. Right. So
I'm from the South. My whole family's always been packing. So it's been weird for me as I've traveled, like, especially I was in New York City for 6 months. So not being able to have a gun, being around people who'd never shot a gun, it's so culturally different to me. And people are always amazed that, my dad's a pastor. And I've always said that not only do we always carry, but like there's people in the church who are armed and people are always surprised by that. But I've said, churches have been obviously victimized numerous times in this country. My dad used to teach at the seminary in Louisville. He had 2 former students, I think, who were shot in their pulpits and murdered. So you've got this self-responsibility and community, but that church has like a volunteer army of people. A lot of them are retired Secret Service or cops, and they train and they go through, safety protocols, but a certain number of them are carrying and are interspersed throughout the church. These are amazing things. And what I find is that when people get involved with this kind of thing, either in a community like that or independently, it does another important thing, which it makes you quit depending on the state.
Yes.
You quit looking to the state to keep you safe. I often hear people say when I'm doing criminal justice reform, like, "Oh, you'll regret this when you call the cops." I'm like, I would never call the cops. Like, honestly, no. I will defend myself and I'll do it 10 times better. And I don't need the cops to come in here and save me because they won't.
And whenever someone says you need it when you call the cops, has never called the cops.
Yes.
Because if you call the cops, you know what they do? They take a report, which is not a bad thing. I'm not against the cops taking reports. That's nice, but they're not saving me, right? If I defend myself, they're arresting me, is what they're doing, right? They're not saving me. They're arresting me for defending myself and hoping that I can prove it was self-defense in New York State. And in New York State, that's hard to do, right? So if in New York, if the cops are coming, they're probably coming to arrest me because I defended myself. And I have to now prove that I've defended myself. So I'm going to be in Rikers Island for a bit before I hopefully get out if I can prove that I defended myself. So yeah, anyone who's saying that has never called the cops.
No, not only that, but they're going to take about 15 to 20 minutes to get there. So if you're not defending yourself, you're probably dead. And then oftentimes, if you're dealing with someone with mental health issues or in a state of duress, they're going to escalate the situation and put everybody else in more danger by nature of them being there. They're probably going to steal your cash if you have any around on civil asset forfeiture, trumped up charges. Like I would never. And I've had plenty of experience on this. Like, you're exactly right. Anybody who says that has never dealt with the cops. They've never called the cops. They're
correct.
Totally delusional. If you look at the crime clearance rates in this country, they are about 60% on average for homicides, which is the most likely to be solved. 60% average. That means some jurisdictions are doing 0, 30%. Some are doing a bit more, but still, that's your best shot. And then for every other violent crime beneath that, it drops well beneath 50% clearance. Clearance doesn't mean conviction, by the way.
Correct.
Clearance means they've identified who they think maybe did it.
Yep.
And knowing how often they're wrong, even when they do get a conviction, like probably wrong a good bit of those times too. So, but I love the way the Second Amendment can wake people up to that and recognize, like, we don't need the government to come in here and do these things. They just make things worse. Like, private security is the way to go.
I love that. Voimas or Voimas A says, Snowden is a freaking hero. I agree. If I was to become president one day, I would absolutely bring him home and I'd give him a Medal of Freedom. Both. Bring him home, pardon him, Medal of Freedom. And anyone, and then I'll try to pass an executive order. If you insult him, I get to punch you once, or something like that. I'll do something like that. Some kind of crazy executive order. Yeah.
Do all of that, and then I'd put him ahead of the NSA. I'd make him the head of it. And
I love that. Oh my God, I love that. So you have a fan in Bill. Bill says, "Great guest, Larry."
Thanks, Bill.
So you got a fan. That's good. Absolutely. So let me see if I can grab a couple more of these. Rachel says, "Just look at what is happening to the ACLU in recent years. The left prioritizing identity politics over civil liberties is one of the many reasons I left the Democratic Party." I have heard that so many times. Mm-hmm. The amount of people, like I live in New York City. Most of my friends are Democrats. And the amount of people who have told me I can't vote Democrat anymore. I mean, I'm hearing it like every month, someone saying I can't vote Democrat anymore. I just can't. Because they feel like they're always being attacked or alienated constantly.
Well,
constantly.
What is the DNC doing? I mean, honest to God, like I'm truly baffled and confused because they, the Republican Party is just as bad. So I'm an equal opportunity basher here, but let's go in on the DNC for a minute. They constantly violate the things that they say they care for. They constantly work against the people that they say they stand for. And here's the thing. I agree with the comment about the ACLU, and I'm devastated about it because I think the ACLU has been one of the most important organizations in our nation's 100%. History. It is, if you've never worked around pro bono litigation, I don't think you can fully understand the scale of how much groups like that have stood in the gap and how much worse things would be had they not. Like, it's hugely important what they've done. And so to lose them and have them out here, and I saw it today, they were out lobbying against like student loans. They want student loan debt cancellation. What does that have to do with civil liberties? And it's weird because I promise you, like, it's not like there's some shortage of civil liberties for them to defend. Like,
I agree. I don't know what's happened. It's almost like, I don't know, Superman became the bad guy or something. Yeah. Yes, like Batman became a criminal, or I don't know, something bad happened. Like it's bizarro world. The ACLU is not supposed to be doing this, and in the past has usually, not always, but has usually been on the right side. Mm-hmm. They've usually been on the right side. Now, I don't know what happened.
It's a crapshoot. And the sad thing is I've worked around a ton of people in the ACLU through my criminal justice work, and I think they have some great people on the ground out there. But what's the national entity controls the money, and then they kind of dole it out to the states. And so you have a really powerful national ACLU and really impoverished, typically state ACLUs. Mm-hmm. And it's just swinging so far left so quickly on identity politics, on like woke cultural issues. And again, like, I'm worried about it. We need something to rise up in its place because I'm terrified if we don't have the ACLU standing in the gap on some of these things. I think we're in more trouble than we've been in. And I'll say the same thing for another org on the right, is the NRA. We needed the NRA. We need a Second Amendment group. These rights are constantly under threat, and the NRA has been out. I don't even know what they're doing, just getting Republicans elected, stumping for cops who are the first people to violate Second Amendment rights, like never standing up and saying anything when Black people are murdered by cops. It's been weird. Like, and not only that, they've not been really suing over some of these bad gun laws. Like they've been MIA on some really serious things. And so thankfully you see groups like the Firearms Policy Coalition rising up and like
GOA.
Actually, and Gun Owners America, like doing some good work, but it's scary times.
Well, the NRA literally is saying, let's just enforce the current laws. No, let's have less of them.
Right.
Yes, let's go backwards. Like, my goal should not be to stop. My goal is to go back.
Yes.
Now, is maybe my first step to stop new? Okay, if that's my first step, I'll buy that, stop the bleeding, right? Mm-hmm. But your goal's got to be to go back, not just let's just stay here while we're arresting gun owners left and right. That's not a good place to be.
No,
at all.
That's not helping.
Yes. So Chuck says, love these ideas. Never heard of Hannah until today. Following her everywhere. Look at that. There we go.
Awesome.
You have a new follower. All the best, Larry, rooting for you in Florida. So Hannah, do me a favor. Tell people where they can find you. Chuck has already found you. Thank you, Chuck, for your initiative.
So I am all over the place, but you can find me on Twitter at Hannah D. Cox, on TikTok at Hannah D. Cox. You can find my website, hannahdcox.com. You can find my podcast, which is called Based, under Based Politics. It's on iTunes and Spotify and YouTube. It's everywhere you'd think to look for it. I have a public Facebook page that's at Hannah Danielle Cox 7. I have Instagram. If you type in Hannah Cox, it should show up. So find me any and everywhere. I'd love to connect with folks and find ways to keep organizing together, because I just think there's so much to be done and so many good people in your audience. Larry, love the work that you do. As you know, you're one of my very favorite people in our movement. I think your voice is so needed in these times and always such an encouragement to me and keeps me optimistic. And so I'm sure your audience appreciates the same.
I hope the audience agrees. If they do, then do me a favor. Click that link, LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon. Click that link next there. And if you can, throw some cash my way so I can move this forward and get more people on board, get more people to see me, buy some more polling, get some ads starting in January, and to move New York State forward, which, of course, eventually moves the entire country forward. Hannah, thank you for coming. I know you got to run off. You're going to be you're doing Fox Business News tonight, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be on Kennedy at 7 p.m. if people want to tune in. Fox Business, 7 Eastern.
There we go. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate
Larry.
it.
Of course. Bye.
All righty. Have a good one. So happy to have her here. It was great to have that. I probably should at least finish the video, shouldn't I? So just you'll see the end of the video and we'll cover that in just 2 seconds. This is the end of it.
And that's taxes. We've got to simplify taxes. So you don't have to have a PhD in finance and accounting just so you can get your taxes paid.
Now, I bring that piece up, a little bit off topic, but I bring this piece up because if you make taxes so detailed, so tough to handle, this little guy goes out of business, which is in this case in Binghamton what actually happened, and the big guy doesn't. The big guy has the money and the cash to get through the maze. The little guy doesn't.
How many times have you seen businesses like this? Friends, people you know, who went out of business, and the final nail in the coffin was a tax bill. Government has to not be the person who's crushing small business, but instead that organization that's facilitating and helping small business.
That would be nice.
And the last one is wages.
Wages.
Like the Park Diner here in Binghamton. Yep. Why in the world is some bureaucrat in Albany trying to tell the owner how we should pay his employees? How the employees, particularly tipped employees, how they should be paid? We have got to change this. We've got to work on these three things so that we can save New York. We've got to break the way that we do regulation, particularly for small business. Break the way that we do taxes, simplified, particularly for small business. And break the way that we do wages, again, particularly for small business. We have to break the status quo.
That was back when Cuomo was the governor. Again, that video, literally from 4 years ago, people say, well, Larry, that video didn't get much traction. It's true, it didn't get that much traction. I wish it had gotten more. It didn't get much traction because we didn't have the cash to pump it everywhere. And I really wanted to pump that video everywhere, particularly, of course, in the Binghamton area, so that more people would have seen that I get what's happening. I've been to Binghamton, I don't know how many times, 7, 8 times. I don't know how many times I've been there, probably more. And I've been there so many times that people should know that, to Hannah's point, as she was talking about earlier, I care, right? That does matter. I really do care. And people don't always know that. Let me grab a couple more comments if I can. So let's see here. Let's see. Joe says, I support government not using tax dollars to threaten people with a gun in a cage for actions that don't harm or threaten to harm others. Yeah, absolutely. Those anti-vape video ads on YouTube pushed by Big Tobacco makes me sad. I agree with that. I can't stand it either. The issue is, let me be very clear on this though. While I don't like those ads, if those ads are just Big Tobacco doing ads against their competitors, I'm actually okay with that in theory. I don't like them, but that shouldn't be against the law. You do ads against your competitors, and people do it all the time, and it's fine. That's part of the market. As long as they have, it's not libel or slander. I get it, of course. My problem is now we're banning it. The government is stepping in and saying you can't. The government doesn't say you can't smoke, does it? You can smoke. Just says put a label on it. Okay, put a label on vaping. Vape if you want to. It's your business. You should be able to do what you want to do. That's the issue, right? If you're not hurting somebody else, so am I now going to say you can't go skydiving or you can't drive because you might get into a car accident? I know it sounds kind of silly, but the concept's the same. You should just know, right? You can decide what is best for you. Rebecca says, my dad who lives in upstate New York learned to shoot from one of his friends in his backyard, as long as the cops and neighbors know ahead of time. Come upstate, out in the country when no one is around. That's very good. Yes, I love that. No one's around. So my problem is I'll go there and that'll be the one day that someone, gets out there and decides, let's get Larry Sharp and put him in jail. That'll happen. That is my concern. So I hope you guys enjoyed Hannah. I'm a big fan of Hannah. She's out there making things happen. She's trying to make things work. I see you see it too. So I appreciate it. Dave, Dadman, how are you, sir? Shared all over the place, Larry. Thank you, my friend. I could use as many as possible. I'll say it again. I'm bugging you for cash. Again, I'm looking for 100 people who could give $100 and 10 people who give 1,000. Why am I asking for so much? Because my competitors will raise millions. And you might say, well, Larry, you're never going to raise millions. Well, maybe, but that isn't the point. In almost every way, I am judged unfairly being a libertarian. In almost every way. There's one way where it works in my favor. Only one. Raising money. If I raise 6 figures, $200,000 by January, just that only, $200,000, just that only. If I raise that, if I'm a Republican or Democrat, look at me and go, what a loser. $200,000? Nothing. Are you kidding me? You got to raise millions. I'm a third-party libertarian. I raise $200,000. They go, oh my God, this guy, he's a player. Oh my God, he's a player. He's serious. Yes. So in that regard, I am absolutely, that's the one advantage I have. So I don't have to raise millions. I would love to raise millions. If any of you have ways of me raising millions, please pass that on to me. I'm happy to make that happen, but it's not required. What's required is to break 6 figures strongly and easily and obviously so that people go, he's serious. He's a player. He's making stuff happen. He's going to have impact. We have to pay attention to him. And that's the critical piece. We have to pay attention. Otherwise, all the things I'm saying go nowhere. They go nowhere. I'm not stopping, guys. Jennifer says, exactly. So crazy ACLU is saying to cancel student debt. That has nothing to do with civil liberties. Yes, Jennifer. And there's the part that's scary, or not scary, disappointing that Hannah was talking about. If you go back several years, the ACU was usually on the right side. They've had some bad takes, but almost always, 9 out of 10 times, they were on the right side. Now, 50-50? I don't know what it is, but it's not what it used to be. So absolutely, it is difficult. Yes. John says, I actually started following Hannah because of Larry's review of her speaking at Freedom Fest. Yeah, there we go. Absolutely. So, all righty. Let's keep going down here if I can. Let's see here. Make taxes like onions, chopped them into little bits. Also nice. Very good. You guys are doing good stuff. I appreciate it. Yes. Myron says, damn it, I'm late. What did I miss? Catch me up. Sorry, you did miss a lot. You missed Hannah. You did miss Hannah. But I did do 2 videos. I want to do another one. That one was Break the Status Quo. The next one I want to do, this is one that I did from my area in Queens, right? I was in Queens, this one. And this one, actually, people started calling it the hoodie video. And I remember when we put it together, my media chief, Zach, was with me in Queens. And he said, Larry, let's do a regular video, like not you in a jacket, in a suit. He said, what do you, if you're running around your neighborhood, what do you do? I said, I often wear a hoodie. He said, put a hoodie on. He goes, talk about, your neighborhood. And what was funny about this is this video, which was one of the most popular ones we did, was one take. I just put on my hoodie, walked down the street, and talked about my neighborhood. And this was 4 years ago. And man, I was right on the money. clean shaven then.
You know, I look around my neighborhood here in Astoria, and there's got to be 30 stores, if not more, in this area. And the majority of the stores, even in this area in New York City, they're corporate owned. They're not individually owned, or they're franchises. And the few stores that are owned by individuals who had that entrepreneurial spunk, that spirit, half of them are out of business now.
This was 4 years ago. It's worse now. The COVID lockdowns, it's worse now.
It's not how it's supposed to be.
That's the subway in the background, guys.
And if you leave New York City and you head further out into the suburbs, into the rural areas, it's even worse. You can't find a non-franchise. You can't find any entrepreneurial spirit. It's gone. And one of the reasons behind that is, look, the big corporation, they have the team of experts that are required to survive and to deal with all the regulations and rules. The rules that are supposed to be making it safer for the consumer and are supposed to be helping people out, but are actually fighting the consumer so the consumer can never be that entrepreneur they want to be.
Yeah, I got to touch this piece more because the same thing happened with lockdowns, right? The idea was we're going to make people safer and we're going to help people. That's the idea, right? In theory, at least. That's the idea. And as we do that, what we find is, again, the average New Yorker, the average American, but I'm talking here specifically New York and New York City, is still struggling. That's the issue. Why are so many of us still struggling? You might say, well, Larry, people always struggle as they make more money, they spend more. And I've heard that argument before. And it is a valid argument. If you start making more money, you tend to increase your lifestyle. That's true. But if all of a sudden I'm making $500,000 a year, I might say I can't get what I want, but I'm not going to say I'm struggling because I'm not struggling at that level. Even in New York City, I'm not struggling at that level. If $500 grand, you'll be fine, right? Even in New York City, the most expensive city in New York, in the country, right? You'll still be fine. But I'm not going to be struggling then, right? I might say, oh, I can't get my second home as fast as I'd like. And that's normal problems that any wealthy person will have, right? Rich people problems. That's true, right? But I'm not struggling. There are people, most of us, who are actually struggling. That literally, if you make that amount of money, 500K or more, as a general rule, not 100% rule, if you lose your income for several months, you're not going to be homeless, right? You might struggle at that point, having no income of one spouse loses their job or something. You may struggle for a little bit and have a little bit of a challenge, change your lifestyle. But the odds of you losing your home or not eating or any of those things, or having to literally pack up and move in with your parents, almost non-existent. But for the average New Yorker, that's a reality. You lose your job for 3 to 6 months, you might have to move out of your house. You might not be able to eat as much. I mean, literally, you could have some serious problems. And many New Yorkers have that problem. The rules are supposed to help us. What they do is they, generally speaking, they make sure we don't die. They're pretty good at that. Not 100%, but they're pretty good at don't die. But they hover you at just that don't die level. I would like us to be better than just don't die.
They have the experts, the corporations do, and it winds up becoming crony capitalism, where the corporations actually write the laws and regulations to make sure the little guy can't survive.
Yep.
The little guy needs to be an expert in what he wants to be. He or she has to have that passion to be the entrepreneur, so they can be the person who loves to be the restaurant owner, the vape shop owner, the taekwondo dojo owner. They shouldn't have to be experts in the minutia, in the regulations, in the laws, but they have to be, and they're not, and they fail. We have to change that. We have to save Main Street.
That was the other thing we talked about, was saving Main Street. And man, Main Street's tore up. It is tore up. There is no doubt about it. I was talking about saving Main Street 4 years ago. And I would ask you, anyone who's out there who's watched the Democrats, Republicans talking for the past 4 years, what's been their plan for Main Street? I don't remember any. I don't remember any plan, idea, nothing. Not at all. Nothing. Yes. Adam says, I can attest that Larry cares. I was the only person to show up at my local full sharp stop. That's true. And he still had over an hour and a half to listen to my concerns and comments about our direction of our state. That's true. We sat down, and it reminds me of my first campaign stop in 2017. My first campaign stop in 2017 was actually officially in Binghamton. So one reason why I like that place. I went to a diner in Binghamton. My first campaign stop, now almost 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. One guy showed up. It was a diner. We had lunch. That's what we did. So even when one person shows, I do it. Sometimes I'm up there and there's 50 people who show up, 60 people who show up, whatever it is. But yes, I will 100%. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. So yes. And some of you, you know that I'll literally call and talk to you. I hear your issues and concerns, and I try my best to give people the best advice I can give. I do try. I'm not always perfect at it, but I go out of my way to give people the best advice that I can possibly give, because I'm trying to help. Melissa says, Larry called me. It's true, right? Melissa and I talked at one of my events. She said she was having an issue. I thought, I could probably give her some advice on this. So we talked. And yes, 100%. It is, I do care. I know it sounds silly. I know it does, but it's true. Yes, absolutely. So let me grab a couple more of these if I can. Shelly says, I was training in sharpshooting for the Olympics. When I was a kid, cops helped train me. Wow. Shelly, that is not the same as today. Absolutely. Jean says, I ran a family daycare for 14 years until I was literally taxed out of business. Yes, this part that you bring up, thank you so much. It was the reason why, for those of you who know, I brought up the idea of instead of a child care facility, you can have one of those, but you could also have what's called a child garden. Why did I want a child garden? Because I want to support local communities. I want to support local people who want to help others. Am I against licensed childcare? Not at all. Am I against licensed daycare? Not at all. Let's just turn it into credentialed daycare, credentialed childcare. That's it. You still have it. It will still exist. But on top of it, if you like, what you can do is, say, for example, I don't know, Gina and I are friends, and she's going up to a park. And I said, do me a favor. You want to take my daughter to the park when you go? She goes, yeah, sure. I'll take your daughter. So she goes. Does she require a license for that? No, she doesn't. We just made an agreement. She's take my daughter to the park. Here's $5 if you can give her some ice cream. She goes, fine. She goes to the park anyway. She's happy to take my daughter. They have a great time. They come back. Great. What's the harm? Nothing. So why can't we replace her instead with a nonprofit? Local church, local VFW, Lions Club, I don't know, whatever. Knights of Columbus, you pick, American Legion, right? Any of those. If they want to, they can decide to be a child garden, which means it's not child care because that's licensed or credentialed. This is child garden. If you want to drop your kid off there, you may. That's it. You may. But Larry, what if they don't do background checks? Don't drop your kid off there then. It's optional. Go to the licensed daycare. It's fine. No worries. Or ask them to do background checks. They might. What if they want to change what they're actually doing? They want to change how they're doing it. You can ask them. They might change it. What does that do? That allows the local community, the local churches, the local VFWs, the local Knights of Columbus, whatever, to get back into action and support local communities. And also, family daycares could exist again. That would be amazing. I hope we can go back to that. Supporting the community is critical. I mean, that, to me, supporting the community is the way that we get people to want to feel comfortable enough, to not have to rely on government. That's what I'll say. So I'm going to use my magic powers, and I'm going to summon in the man, the myth, the legend himself, Spike, the man, Cohen. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Larry. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like you're the man in the myth.
No, you're the one in space right now. You're the one literally in space, not me.
This actually isn't
office.
really happening behind me. This is all just a trick. This is just a green screen. That's not real. No, none of that's happening. I thought this was real.
No, I knew you had magic powers, so I figured you were just floating over, is what I thought.
No, I'm not. No, this isn't actually what the world looks like when you're on top of it anyway.
Oh, see, I wouldn't know that. I'm not cool like you. It's fine. No worries. It's fine. No worries. It's good to see you, my friend. I appreciate it.
It's good to see you too, man. It's been weeks.
It has. It has been a while. And I'm here showing people my stuff from 2018.
Oh, okay.
And showing where I stood on issues, how I stood on issues, things I discussed. And, you know, you and I have discussed this before. We in the Libertarian Party love the debate. Love the debate. And I'm like, I don't like debating libertarians. We agree on 99% of the stuff. Why are we debating, right? It drives me crazy, but we do. So I want to show an actual debate that I did against non-libertarians, right? This was for my last
Which is what we should be doing, arguing with other people. Yes. Yep.
Absolutely. And here it is. You guys can watch it and tell me what you think. This is asking about my education, my K through 10 plan.
This is a more K through 12 question. What does educational equity mean to you? And if you believe that the state has fallen short, can you provide some specific examples as to where?
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, there is no doubt. Right now we have a system to where if
you look right there to the far left, you will find Howie Hawkins, who was the Green Party candidate.
Yep.
You will find next to him, Stephanie Miner, who was the SAM candidate. Then there's the person who's the moderator. Then that handsome man to the right is me. And the person next to me is Mark Milano, who was the Republican candidate. Cuomo never showed up. So I actually made the debate stage and Cuomo did not show up. My governor did not show up to this debate. This was an official debate by the League of Women Voters. We made it in debates and the top guy didn't show up. How's that feel, Spike?
It feels familiar. Well, you at least got on the debate stage. But here's the thing. In Cuomo's defense, he had nothing to gain by debating you. This is, the reality is he knows he's going to lose a debate to you. And if by some miracle you come in, you've eaten too much cake or something like that, you're off your game a little bit or something, and you come in, he didn't gain anything by winning that debate. So no, of course he's going to run for the hills. This is what happens when libertarians make it on the debate stage. The incumbents run away.
Absolutely. So I think that part was crazy, but I actually did talk about an actual plan, which is the crazy thing.
Yes.
You can afford tutors, your kids will do well. And if you can't afford tutors, your kids will struggle. So it doesn't work at all. The entire system has to be revamped from bottom to top. We need to end standardized testing for all kids prior to high school. It has to go away. It is an unfair way of grading teachers. It is an unfair way of judging schools. And it's no indication of success. And it makes kids who are 8, 10, 12 years old feel stupid because they can't take a test well. It creates a second class of student already. And I'm adding 30 seconds. And not just that, K through 12 itself is an anachronism. It should not exist anymore. We should be K through 10. The last 2 years for too many kids, and you know this to be true. It is study hall. It is gym. It is smoking weed and video games. Wasting time. How do I know that? The first year of college is 13th grade. It's all remedial because no kids are ready for it. Taking over 6 years to graduate college. Stop that. It's a disaster. There are many ways to have success. After you're in 10th grade, the first thing you do is you have an option. You want to go to college? Great. Go to a 2-year prep school. You want to do that? Great. Go to a 2-year trade school. We need trades in this state. The average tradesman in New York State is over 50 years old. How many kids do you know struggle through college, then 28 years old go, just want to build houses? We stole 10 years of that kid's life for no reason or a lie. Instead, let's let our kids be who they want to be when they want to be it. We can do that. How do we pay for it? Very simple. I'm a Marine. When I got in the Marine Corps, I had a GI Bill. I had X dollars and X years to use it. We're going to give our kids.
Thank you, Mr.
I thought I had another 30 seconds, didn't I?
You did.
Well, then I want 30 more. Then I'm not done. This is my baby. This is my baby. I'm not done. No.
Now, the reason why I show this is what you saw me do in that clip is be passionate, give an actual answer, and tell the truth. I said the last 2 years of high school was a joke. I didn't say we have to invest more in our kids and blah, 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 that stupid crap. I said, no, it's a joke. Get rid of it. It's dumb. It's stupid. It doesn't work. But the critical piece is I didn't just say it's bad. I then gave a way to make it actually work. Yeah. That's the critical piece. I actually gave a way to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Libertarians are proposing a total shift in almost everything, especially when it relates to government. It's pretty much everything we want to change. And we can explain why it sucks. Fantastic.
Yep.
What is our plan?
Yes.
And that's a crucial part of it. Now, I will admit, I make fun of the folks that when I'm saying, this thing that they're doing with the COVID regime, none of these things are working. And the first thing people say is, well, what's your plan? Well, step number one is stop doing bad things that make it worse. But
yes.
In their defense, what is our plan? And the thing is, we have answers for it. So instead of banging our heads up against the wall and calling everyone bootlickers, which I know that's your favorite thing to do, but if you can stop for a moment, just stop.
Fine. Today, Spike. Today I'll stop. Fine.
Today is the day that Larry stops calling everyone he meets a bootlicker. But if in doing that, you instead can give that answer of what a better way is. Now you're not just saying this sucks. Everyone already knows this sucks. That's why they came to that debate, because they know it sucks. You're giving an actual answer, and that's what it's all about. That's why you're running. That's why we're supporting it.
I love it, guys. If you like what I'm saying, then do me a favor then. Donate. LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon if you can. It does matter if you can. I'm looking to the best of my ability to get 100 people to give $100. And if you're a heavy hitter, show me you're a heavy hitter. I want 10 people to give me $1,000. That'll raise 20 grand for today. Once we hit that number, that's more advertising for January. Now we are rocking and rolling. So if you can help out, if you want a guy on a debate stage like that, well, I'll get there. If you help me, I will get there. And let me wrap this up so you see how I ended it.
Oh, I'm not done. No. So, baby.
Please.
Not just that. So we're going to instead give our kids, we're going to give them $20,000 and 7 years to use it. What does that mean? A bunch of trade schools pop up, a bunch of prep schools pop up. How do I know? It's guaranteed government money. Banks love that. They always give loans for that. We're good. When that begins to happen, we'll spend only $10,000 per kid, not 22. We'll save $12,000 per kid. There's about 400,000 11 and 12th graders in New York State. That's more than $4 billion, more than what we'll lose from federal funds. We'll make that up and require less administrators and better teachers, happier kids, happier parents.
Mr. Sharp.
That is what I wanted to try to achieve in 2018. And what I would ask anyone watching, has it changed? Right? What I always get, and Spike, you got this. Oh, I can't vote for you, Spike. I love you, but it's a wasted vote. I got that same thing, right?
Yep.
So my point is, if you voted for someone else, what'd you get?
Most important election of our lives. And they're already doing this again for 2024. They're skipping the midterms this time to say that this is the 2024. Yes, we'll get to 2022 when it's 2022, but you need to know in 2021 that 2024 is the most important election of our lives. Here's how that relates to you, Larry. Everything you said there is true or worse, right? Like everything you said that was bad in that debate or during the entire 2018 campaign, that's either as like the baseline, that was all high watermark. It's only gotten worse since then.
Correct.
So, but the reality is the thing I say, and this is my elevator pitch when, people corner me and go, tell me why I should waste my vote on you. And I go, I'm going to rather tell you why you shouldn't waste your vote on the people who created the mess that you're in. And you're voting for them again in the vain hope that this time, Larry, they're finally going to fix it. And if you don't vote for them, you're going to get the guy behind them who they work with every day to make everything terrible for you.
Right. Absolutely true. Yes, nothing was fixed. So you might be mad at me for some reason going, well, Larry, I can't vote for you. But I would ask you, if I got elected, some of that would have happened. I would have gotten something passed. What'd you get now? Nothing. Everything I said 4 years ago is still true, to your point, or worse. It's insane. So before we go further, Spike, tell me what you're doing. I'm sorry, I jumped right into my cool video because I like my cool videos.
I'm glad you did.
So tell me what you're doing right now. You are out there everywhere. You are killing it, out doing the media stuff. Tell people what you're doing.
I'm everywhere.
I know.
Sometimes at the same time.
I thought you were in space.
This is the one place. This is the one place I haven't campaigned yet. Is in space for libertarians to take over low Earth orbit and leave everyone alone. No, I in the last year, coming out of the campaign, I realized that we had the excitement, we had momentum, we had the desire to win, we had more activists than we've ever had before. But what we didn't have was what appeared to be much of a game plan. And so I came in, and I'm not going to take all the credit or even most of the credit. I'll take a small portion of the credit. I and other libertarians across the country realized that we needed to focus on the grassroots elections to build up. And that's why we just had the record number of election wins for 2021 in an off year, not even during a midterm or a general election year with a presidential candidate. In an off, like a by-election year, we got almost 200 races, almost 150 of them in Pennsylvania. And so now what I'm going to be doing coming into this year with my group, You Are the Power, we're going to be expanding that even further. We're going to be going into, I want everything that was happening with the Moulton maneuver in Pennsylvania. I want that in New York. I want that where I am in South Carolina. I want it in Florida. I want it in Alaska. I want it in Alabama. I want it in Hawaii. I want it everywhere. And that momentum is what's going to be able to be used for you in your campaign as well, Larry, and those that are running for statewide offices and federal offices.
I love it.
You need that army behind you of people that are going to be doing the groundwork, building affiliates, building campaigns, building legislative victories, and showing that, the Larry way of doing things in New York, the libertarian way of doing things, Larrytarianism needs to take over New York. And the way we're going to do that is at the grassroots moving up. The world. You're going to be up here next.
That's gonna be me.
I'm campaigning for Larry to be the king of low Earth orbit. And that's why
Love that. Absolutely. Yes. So can I take some comments? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Please.
Brian says, if MMT is correct, which is modern monetary theory, for those of you who don't know, I know you know, Spike, but some viewers may not know, and correct, and government debt is nothing to worry about, why does it collect taxes? Yes. When people bring up MMT, I don't know how you deal with this, Spike. When they bring up MMT, I always say, great, if that's true, why doesn't the government simply absorb all of our debt every 10 years? Just absorb all of our consumer debt every 10 years. We all get a mulligan every 10 years. Give me some time to buy a couple of houses first, and then we'll all just do that. I mean, do you ever get that?
Yeah, I get MMT all the time. In fact, it's very popular because of people mistake Milton Friedman's negative income tax, which I don't support that either. They mistake that for MMT and UBI when there are some key differences there. And so there are a lot of libertarians that are buying into MMT and UBI. And the thing I say what you're saying is, well, why isn't the government just absorbing? Why don't we have a jubilee every 10 years where everyone's debt's absolved? And I'm sure everyone will be very responsible with that. The thing I say is, if government's main only function becomes deciding how much money you get every month, what do you think politicians are going to talk about? Do you think they're going to talk about defending your rights? Do you think a libertarian's going to have a way in edgewise to talk about protecting people every single month, between the fact that or every single election cycle, between the fact that that's all politicians are going to be incentivized to talk about, and the fact that the cost of living is going to spiral out of control from the tens of trillions of dollars in debt that are going to get run up every year? All anyone is going to want to hear is that my $5,000 a month is now $10,000 a month. And then I'm going to go and say, Larry doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't care about you. If you vote for me, I'll give you $14,000 a month. And then Andrew Yang comes out of the shadows and says, these guys are both schmucks. I'll give you $20,000 a month. And then that's just going to make it even worse. If you make it where all government is doing is handing off money to everyone, regardless of their situation, that doesn't the only thing it streamlines is the ability for politicians to rob you of your own money and then give some of it back to you.
I think you've hit it exactly on the money. I was just watching my Mayor de Blasio, the worst mayor in New York City, in the country. He actually was talking about all the good things he's done. And as I was looking at what he had done that was so good, all it really was giving money out. That's what it was. He earmarked money for things.
Yes.
That's what he does, which is why in New York State, many people who aren't in New York don't know this. We don't actually pass laws anymore. What we do is we pass budgets. So all the laws are in the budget. Why? Because every law, every rule is just giving out money anyway. So now we cut the middleman out in New York. We don't even bother passing laws anymore. We just put everything in the budget because it's all about giving out money. And people don't believe me, but you can just look. Oh my God. We haven't passed a law. I don't know how long. We just give out money through that. And of course, mandates, which no law there. And of course, we have our another rule we have in New York is we have committees and bureaus and such who create rules. And if the assembly doesn't say it's not a law, and I think it's 90 days or 30 days, it becomes a law. So now even they're doing laws. The only people who don't pass laws is our assembly.
The lawmakers.
Yes, the lawmakers.
Specifically, the lawmakers don't pass laws, which is that makes sense for government, right? It's like whatever they call something, it's the opposite of that. So it's like, what do you do? I'm a lawmaker. What do you actually do? I do everything but make laws. I do blue ribbon panels. We pass these omnibuses once or twice a year. I get cut a lot of ribbons. Actually, fewer and fewer ribbons. Actually, recently.
Absolutely.
I grandstand a lot, and I accept a lot of bribes and money. Laws, no. I try to avoid laws. I try to avoid
to the best of my ability. Yes,
whenever I can. If at all possible, I try to stay home that day if there's a law being proposed or anything. Yeah,
that's the norm, and I wish that wasn't true, but it really is the norm. So we were talking about the average American struggling just before you came on, and Tony brings up that struggles nearly every person I know, and it hasn't gotten better, Tony. It hasn't gotten better, and you would think that if government could be effective, you would think that by now they would have made the struggle easier or less people struggling or any of those things. Yeah. But constantly the struggle is still happening. It's not turning right at all. It's staying that bad. By the way, Rebecca loves it. She yells Spike.
Spike. So, I can answer that. Rebecca. That's my answer.
There we go. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
please.
That's been going on steadily, right? Ever since honestly, ever since Woodrow Wilson, but definitely ever since the New Deal and then the Great Society and the War on Poverty. In those phases, it's been kind of slowly getting worse for the middle class, because even though their incomes have been slowly going up, the cost of living has continued to spiral out of control. But that's okay, because after government shoves you down into the ground, you discover there's a nice safety net there for you. So that's good. Yes. They have taken your wallet, to coin the phrase from Harry Brown. They have taken your wallet. They have beaten you up and broken your leg, but they did give you a nice new pair of crutches every couple of years. And if you're Thomas Queter, they'll give you a wheelchair that will hurt you.
That will hurt you. Make things worse.
That's correct. The new version. Yes. But with the COVID regime, it's gone on a completely different level. Last year, we saw the greatest transfer of wealth in human history, and it was from those with the least, the lower 50, 60 percentile, to those other people. And it was people being shut down, their businesses being shut down, being told they weren't essential, being told that if they open their furniture store or their tanning salon or their bar that has 5, 10, 15 people in it, that's very unsafe. We need to make sure everyone's going to Costco at the same time, thousands at a time, where it's safe at Target, and then going home and downloading things or buying things on Amazon and watching Netflix, maximizing profits for the rich. But it's okay, Larry, because they gave us the average person got about $5,000 in subsidy, but the cost of living did go up almost $9,000 during that time.
So, wow, that math not even Common Core math. That does not work out at all.
No, any kind of math that turns out you get screwed. I did some very advanced math on this before I came on, just to make sure everyone's getting screwed on this.
Okay, good. At least it's fair. Okay, I guess it's equity for you. So this is
it's equity. It is equity.
It is equity. Yes, I do want to quickly show you one from government making mistakes at a local level. This is in Utica. When I was crossing Utica had an issue with a hospital building downtown, and eminent domain was an issue. And I actually I brought in my young daughter at the time as a way of I don't know, trying to make it look cute. I don't know if it worked or not, but I tried.
I'm here in Utica with my lovely daughter Barbara.
Hello.
Just left the Wilcor showroom, speaking to Sean there. Amazing company, 3 generations here in Utica, across the country. An amazing company that brings people here to their showroom to help out Utica, brings tourism here to Utica to support the local businesses. It is a family business here in Utica. And guess what? Right now, the government wants to bulldoze this to put a hospital here. Let me be clear. They want to use eminent domain to take their land and
Is this just a major cliffhanger, or did it pause?
Hold on. Let me see if it's going to pause. There we go.
Use taxpayer money,
there we go.
$300 million to give to another private company.
Mm-hmm.
This is wrong. It's unethical and bad for Utica. What's more important is that businesses like this survive and thrive. This is what will revitalize this city, this town, this area, this Main Street, this downtown. This is how, by protecting them from eminent domain, we will save Main Street.
Now, the sad part about that is that business is gone. That was 4 years ago.
Yep.
The hospital is being built. They did bulldoze that building, and that company is now gone. Now, what was terrible about about this even more is that company, that was a showroom. They shipped stuff from Utica to other parts of the country. So they would bring people into their showroom. So people had to get a hotel. People had to eat, at the local restaurant. And then they would show Utica around, and they'd look at this. Oh, I want 18 of these, 2,000 of these, 10,000 of those, 50,000 of these. And then people would go home and they'd ship stuff out. Utica jobs. They're gone now.
Yeah. And now let's be clear. Hospitals are needed. We certainly know that. So make offers on properties that are for sale. And if they want more, give them more, because that's how the market works. Now, what's even worse, does New York have certificate of need laws?
Sadly, yes.
Okay, so now that the Mohawk Valley Hospital, or whatever it's called there, is there, if someone else says, you know what, I think that we need another medical center a few miles down the road, maybe expanding an existing imaging center or whatever, Mohawk Valley healthcare system, if that's what whatever that's called, will fight that tooth and nail, and 100%. They will have a system called certificate of need laws where they can literally essentially sue to stop it. And the city government, the county government, whoever the municipality is under that your state's certificate of need laws, is required by law, whether they want to or not, to go through this process of forcing this other company to prove that they're really needed. And that's so they've used eminent domain to steal property, essentially for pennies on the dollar, to build this hospital. And now they're going to use government to make sure no one else can compete with them. And you're going to be shocked, but we have totally unrelated to what we're talking about. Healthcare is very expensive in this country.
Oh, is it? Oh my God. I wonder why. I have heard that. I think someone's told me that once or twice. Okay, good. Okay, good. We're on the same page. Great. I'm sure it has nothing to do with government being involved at all.
Absolutely not. No.
Nothing whatsoever. I love that.
At all.
That's good. So Thomas says, tune in the right time. My favorite Spike and Larry. Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it. David says, Larry's materials fire. Oh, I like that. We need you running. Holy crap, we need to donate to this man. Someone drop the donation link. Yeah, please do that. Drop donation link. Yes, it's LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon, because this is a celebrity Larry-thon. I just made that up because it sounded cool. So
no,
now
I love
sounds
it.
Cool.
I love it. I'm very much the king of puns. In fact, I'm going to put that because earlier I was sharing that while you were playing one of the things, and now I'm going to put that in the link to what in the comments of what I shared.
Well, you're the celebrity, so see, you get to be the celebrity in this one.
That's good.
It's not just a Larry-thon. That would be regular. This is a celebrity Larry-thon, so I got to have you here.
Larry-thon. Oh, okay. So it's like a Spike and Larry-thon or Larry Spike-a-thon.
Whatever. Yes. Yes. Exactly.
That's good. That's good.
Sam says, former teacher here, and I love Larry's K-10 plan.
Yes.
I hear that all the time. Right? Yes. I hear that all the time. Really. People love the idea completely. Yes, they really do enjoy it. So when you were just around New York State, though, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in Syracuse, and I was wherever you were in the state. I was somewhere else telling people to support you.
There we go.
And so we were basically matching the state. We did hang out we did get to hang out together in Syracuse for a little bit. And
absolutely.
And I saw you right before that, before I came to New York, and now I'm blanking.
South Dakota?
Yes. Well, no, but it was even after that. Anyway, whatever. So in New York, we did get to see each other a little bit in Syracuse.
We were in Michigan too.
That's what it was. It was Michigan. Yeah.
Yep.
And so we I made sure that I canvassed as much of the state as possible. We started in Staten Island, And we did Long Island, we did Manhattan, we did up to Syracuse, we did Albany, we did Buffalo, Niagara Falls, and then Bergen, which is near Rochester, and then Oneonta, which is where Thomas Queter is, and we campaigned for him. And the reason I was there is because if there is a single state that needs liberty desperately, it is New York. New York is, I believe, the least free state in the union by almost every organization's measure.
Ranked by Cato multiple years in a row. Take that, California. Yes.
Finally, we win at something. But so I mean, I it's weird because, and you probably get this too, Larry. You know, when I say I'm in New York doing this or I'm supporting someone in New York, they go, New York, they're just a bunch of liberals. And it's like, well, yeah, that's why we're there. We're here because the reason people are voting Democrat is because they voted Democrat. Their parents voted Democrat. The Democrats are in charge. The Democrats are the ones that hold all the purse strings. They look at the Republicans and go, no, absolutely not. And so they vote Democrat. What an opportunity to say, this isn't working, and the Republicans suck too. So here is our answer. Not just that these things are terrible, but here are our actual solutions to do things. And that's when I first had you on my show back in early 2019. You probably didn't even know you were on my show. I was such a nobody at the time. You came on and you talked about your K through 10 plan. And I told you, and I had mentioned before that I was an anarcho-capitalist. And you said, so you're probably not going to like this. I said, no, I want to hear it. And you told me. And I said, well, listen, I know I can't, there is no Rothbard button. I know we can't make the government go away. But the reality is there's going to have to be steps down. What a perfect step down. You're empowering students who at that point, they're the ones who need to be empowered. When you're talking high school, they're the ones, these are, going to soon be young adults that need to start making decisions for themselves. You're empowering 100%. The parents, and frankly, you're empowering the teachers. You're taking the power out of the hands of government and the teachers unions, and you're saving the state money and the taxpayers' money. Who doesn't love that? I think it's great. I think your plan is fantastic.
And my point, I think, always is what most people like it. And what they don't realize is I'm literally privatizing 2 years of school. Right?
Yes.
2 years of school get privatized. Done. And federal funds come out. Right? So there's no federal funds, no strings attached. So I'm getting rid of the federal government and privatizing 2 years of school. But if I were to say that, people would say, that plan's terrible. I'm scared. I'm scared of that plan because it gets rid of the government. And oh my God. But then I say, well, no, it's just a K through 10 plan and you have choices. You go, oh, that's a great plan. Yeah, same plan. So yes, it's
literally the same
how
plan.
you say it.
Yeah, it's always, first of all, when we trip over ourselves with some of our lingo. Like if you're saying privatize, you need to realize what that means to most people. They don't realize you're saying decentralize and put the power back in your hands and put the money and the freedom and the decision-making ability back in your hands. When they think private, they think a big fence and a big sign that says private property, keep out. And especially if they don't come from a wealthy background, then they've associated that with, oh, that's where wealthy people go and I don't get to do that. Like we're just now starting where people realize the term private school isn't a bad thing, or it doesn't just mean for wealthy people. Private school is actually something that's more affordable with much better outcomes and with more control from parents, which is why school choice is becoming more and more popular. It's going to take time before privatize means to the general normie public what it does to me and to Larry and to everyone watching this. And in the meantime, if you can say things like, we're going to empower you, we're going to let you as a stakeholder be able to make decisions for yourselves, we're going to give you the power back, we're going to give you the money back and let you decide for yourself. You're literally saying the exact same thing. You're just explaining it in terms that are friendly to them instead of trying to gold pill them into, you're basically taking think of all the years of reading of Rothbard and Hayek and Mises and Hazlitt and everyone else that it took for you to reach the point you are. Now, imagine if before you had done any of that, someone tried to say it all to you in 2 paragraphs and then called you a bootlegger as a follow-up.
I remember you bring this up. I tell a story often. When I heard Gary Johnson speak in 2012, I thought he was a radical. I'm serious. I did. I was like, this guy's what? Did he just what? So wait a minute. So government isn't the answer for everything? What? I thought he was a radical. And what he was, in my view, where my head was, he was just radical enough for me to go, huh. My head was not in a spot in 2008. I couldn't hear Ron Paul. Right now, I love Ron Paul, but I couldn't hear him in 2008. My head was not there. Yep. But in 2012, now my brain was open. I could hear someone. Mm-hmm. And the person who was there for me was Gary Johnson. And I thought, this guy's radical. Oh my God. Who's this guy? These librarians. They're brilliant. Oh, libertarians. Okay. I thought librarians. He seems smart, but I didn't even know. And all of a sudden, then I started to draw and now I'm far more radical than Gary Johnson is. But that's what I needed then to get myself there. And we don't do that well enough.
And there's a lesson there too, Larry, because you think of all the people that Ron Paul brought to the movement. Gary Johnson brought you to the movement. There are many others that brought people. One of the biggest people that brought me to the movement was Matt Kibbe. And the reason he brought me to the movement was because he had been involved with a group called Freedom Works, and I think Grassfire before that, which was a conservative group. He was the token libertarian. And so he continued to send emails through Freedom Works and then through another group after that. I forget what it's called. And so he was the only person that was presenting the anti-Iraq war, anti-endless spending, anti-Patriot Act message in a way that was palatable for me as a somewhat liberty-leaning neocon who was liberty-leaning on things like guns and drugs and personal decisions. But, you know, that's what I needed at that time. I remember I used to hate Ron Paul when he would talk about war. 9/11's blowback. How dare you? These people hate us for our freedoms. You know, I wasn't ready for that. And Gary Johnson, I don't know if I would have received that, but Matt Kibbe, I was ready to receive. And so the lesson there is it takes all kinds. Everyone is different. We believe this. We're all individuals. We're the smallest minorities, each and every last one of us. We all receive things differently. So maybe let this person, if they're saying it differently, if they're sticking true to what we believe and they're using their way of presenting it and their tone and tenor and nomenclature to be able to present it to that group, good. Let them do that for their audience. You do this for your audience. This person does that for their audience, and we can bring people in all different ways.
Absolutely. I completely agree. As AJ says, you are the power. Someone says that. Someone does say that. Yes. No, look, I'm with you 100%. Tell the people how they can follow you and what you're doing if they want to watch what you're doing.
Well, number one, you need to go to LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon and help this man become the next governor of New York. Every penny that you sow into this is fertile ground to spread the message of liberty and to get libertarians elected. We want to get Larry elected. The closer Larry gets to getting elected, the more libertarians we get elected down ballot in New York and in surrounding states. I want you to remember something about this. Larry's campaign in 2018 was a national campaign for governor of New York. He brought in people from all over the country who to this day will tell me, Larry Sharp's who brought me into the Libertarian Party. And now they're doing something in Montana or California or South Carolina, Florida, New Hampshire, whatever. This is a man who is not only going to run and fight to win the governorship of New York, but to continue to grow the liberty movement. LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon. If you want to follow me, my website is SpikeCohen.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm finally on TikTok for all the kids out there. I'm finding all these like 18-year-olds that are following me. It's a whole different vibe there. But check me out on all those social media platforms. SpikeCohen.com. Very soon, I'm going to be announcing something very, very big. So go and sign up there. The long story short is it's something that's going to help Larry. So sign up and find out more about it. Yes, it's going to help Larry. It's all about Larry. 2022 is.
I agree. I agree.
But thank you for having me, Larry. I
want to say thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate all the time you give me. And I say this all the time. I can't say it enough. I am so happy that you are still part of this movement. I am so happy that you're here with us. Thank you so much for all you do. Please keep going so I can still keep saying that. So good. All right.
Yeah, no, I don't want to disappoint Larry. For no other reason, I'm sticking around. I don't want to disappoint you. I love you, man. Thank you for having me on. Tasha says hi, and I will see you soon. LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon, everyone.
Thank you, my friend. Have a good one. Bye. So look, I love the fact that we're able to have people like Spike in our world who, take the time to do things like this. I appreciate that. And I hope you guys see that he's behind us. what he said was right. This is actually a national campaign. It's all people from all around are the ones who are getting, involved in it. And I appreciate it. Someone, Howard says, the goal of this presentation is to raise money for Larry's campaign. How are we doing? So far that I can see, I don't have everything, but we have already broken, I believe, the 2,000 mark already, which is great. So we got to keep going. So we have a bunch. We have a bunch of $100 donors. For those of you who are doing the $100, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We don't have a $1,000 donor yet, but I'm hoping to get one soon. If you are that person, that'd be amazing. It will make things work very well. I really appreciate it. So thank you for all of you guys who are doing this. I really do appreciate it. I've been showing a lot of videos from 2018. And the reason why I've been showing them is because things haven't changed much. And people said to me constantly, Larry, I wish, I don't know, do I really want to vote for you? It's a wasted vote. And I would ask, if you didn't vote for me, what did you get? And I would say the reverse. If you did vote for me, if you did spend money on me, right? If you took your $10 or $100 or $500 or $1,000, whatever you did, if you spent that money on the Republican or Democrat here in New York State, what did you get? If you're a Democrat, you got a guy who literally packed up and left because he left in disgrace, ruined the state, and then left. If you voted for the Republican or gave them their money, they walked away and did nothing. They haven't helped at all. But if you put that money into me, if you put that time, that energy, and I hope that vote, if you're a New Yorker, into me, I'm still here. I'm still trying to fix things. I'm still out here trying to make this a better state. I haven't left yet. Hopefully not. I haven't left yet. I'm still trying to stay here. I don't want to move. So you're still getting someone who cares, who matters, and who gives you something to think about also in your own life and ways to communicate with your friends and family so that we can actually move this country, this state forward. It does matter. We have to do it if we can. And of course, Tony says, no, it's just getting worse. Absolutely, yes. Jimmy says, Larry, what would New York look like without an authoritarian? I'm going to give you something that you might think is funny here. New York would be amazing. Why do I mean that? Why do I say that? What I mean by that? New York State is without question one of the most beautiful, amazing states, diverse states in the nation. We have the largest city in the country. We have beautiful mountains, rivers, lakes. We have falls. We have beaches. We have a Broadway, and we have the Erie Canal, and we've got Niagara Falls, and we've got the Yankees, only the Yankees, and we've got and Buffalo Bills too. We got those two. So we have everything you can imagine. We have hunting, we have farming, we have fishing, we have, whatever you can imagine, banking, finance, you name it, we have it here. That's what makes us great. Whatever you want to do, and it's within the same state, driving distance for most people to go to anything you want to do. Our government is so oppressive. It literally breaks up families. Authoritarianism breaks up families. That's the problem. It's so horrible. It breaks up families. Without authoritarianism, you know what would happen? More people would stay in this state. More families would grow in this state. More people would grow their business in this state. More people will they'll retire in this state. So many good things will happen. That's what this state looks like. In fact, this state, we've been losing population, about 2 million people in the past 10 years. We've lost. We're losing Congress people. Without authoritarianism, this state grows to 25 or 30 million people, and we're happy. That's what New York would look like. And I think we can do it. I feel like we could actually do it. I do. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we can. So anyway, let me keep going here if I can. All righty. Let's see here. Eric says, middle of the road libertarian here. Mr. Sharp, I believe in gun control. Yep, that's right. A libertarian that believes in gun control. I'm not for government gun control, but industry gun control. How about all the libertarians joining the fight against school shootings by supporting proper gun storage, proper ammunition storage, fingerprint ID triggers, etc.? There are methods available to reduce gun violence. Libertarians can win with their own gun control policies. To be forward with you, if individual companies and individual people want to do that, I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't have a problem with individuals deciding to do certain things, right? I'm totally fine with it. Even companies deciding. If a company decides I'm only going to sell, guns that have, ID triggers. Fine. I'm okay with that. I mean, if that's what they want to do, and if you think we should tell them to do so, I'm okay with that too. I'm okay with all of it. What I'm against is when government decides to control the firearms. That's not going to work. But if you decide to, what's wrong with that? Right? I'm agreeing with you. Voluntarily, I'm okay if you don't want to own a gun. Don't own one. It's a right, not a requirement. So I'm with you on that idea. I think, why not? The part I'm not with you is, I don't think that school shootings are linked to gun control, right? So if you want gun control voluntarily, I'm fine with that. Even petitioning companies to change how they sell firearms. If they agree, the market says we only want this, no worries, right? If the market says we only want, firearms with fingerprint ID triggers, then that's what they'll sell. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm not sure I could say that school shootings are linked to gun control. I think those two things aren't connected. The most important thing to remember whenever it comes to school violence, any violence, but particularly school violence, in these cases, in the case of school violence, it's not actually, it's murder. However, it's actually a public suicide, right? When a student decides to go into school and shoot it up, it's actually a public suicide. They know their life is over, or believe their life is over, and they're going to go out in a blazing glory and show you guys or do this thing or whatever is in their head that seems to make sense to a teenager. The problem is, the deepest problem is, how do we get kids to not want to commit suicide? Because if you look at some of the more horrible ones, not all of them are through guns. Some are through knives, and some have plans. If you don't have guns, they get pipe bombs. So people are deciding to commit suicide. This is a very deep issue and a hard issue to handle. But how do you do that? By focusing not on gun control, but by focusing on happiness. I know I'm the weirdo who always talks about happiness. I know. But happiness matters, because happy people don't shoot up schools. Happy people don't want to commit suicide. Happy people stay and grow families and businesses. Happiness really does matter. So while I'm with you, Eric, on voluntary gun control, no worries. I'm in when everything's appropriate. I don't link those two together. I think if you got rid of all the guns tomorrow magically, if a kid wanted to kill himself or herself, usually him, but kill himself or herself and wanted to take out others, they would find another way. And the best example I can give you is the largest school killing ever was in Nice, France. And it was done with the van. Kid waited for the kids to line up outside of school, ran them all down, killed like 60 or 70 kids, something like that, some insane number. It was a huge chunk. So that kid didn't have guns, but he was like, I'm getting rid of kids. He found a van, waited until they got lined up, and mowed them all down with a van. That happened in New York City. There was a van killing in New York City, ran down bicyclists. I think killed 8 or 9, maybe 7. But so, yes, voluntarily, I don't link the two though. That's the issue. I don't really like the two. So I hope that was clear, at least in that regard. So, all righty. Let's see here. Laura says, eminent domain is one level of taxation. It's advanced theft. Yes, it is. It's like nice theft because you get something. I'm not sure. Yes. So something like that, it's bad. Absolutely. So I appreciate that. I am going to use, I think, my magic powers again. And with those magic powers, I am going to bring in the one, the only, Olivia Rondeau. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Larry? What's up, everybody in the chat?
I am so happy you're here. Tell me what you're doing. Give me something good.
I'm so happy to be here too. I'm working on a great new video for the Sharp Way. It's about some big popular trials that happened recently. Not to give anything away, but I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. But yeah.
Very good. Very good. I love it. I love it. So I've been showing people some of my older videos from 2018, kind of showing like what happened in 2018 and how it's kind of still happening now. It hasn't gotten much better. So I'm going to do this one. This is one of my favorite ones. It was one of my more popular ones, but this is when I was in Rochester and it was cold out. This also was one take, by the way, but most of mine are actually, I just would talk. But this one actually was one take, and it was cold, so my mouth was getting cold. But because I was traveling in upstate New York in the winter because I had to. So anyway, this one, see if you guys will like it. We'll walk down this one real fast.
I'm here in Rochester. Used to be called Flower City, because over here used to be a big flour mill. Made lots of flour. That's great. What is it now? It's nothing. People said, well, wait a minute, we have to do something about that. This should be something. So the idea was, we'll put taxpayer money into it.
Yeah.
And guess what we have right now? Nothing.
And that is the piece I want to bring up. The piece we hear all the time. Hey, this used to be great. We should fix it. And once we hear the we should fix it, we equals government taxpayer money. So they said, we should fix it. Okay, who's we? So somebody in Rochester said, I know, we'll get a plan from Albany and they'll throw money at it and they'll fix it. And what happened? Nothing. There's still nothing there.
We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it means that the people in charge are going to fix it with y'all's money. That's what that means. And it's yes. not really going to get fixed either, I don't think.
But there's a bigger piece here. They're going to fix it with your money after they take a cut. Or you could just fix it. You could just get somebody to fix it, but they can't do that. They're going to take your money, take their cut, and then do it in a way that's terrible. That's what they're actually going to do. So yes, but there's more to this video. Like I talked about how bad this was, because Rochester, for those who don't know, is a relatively large city in New York State, right? New York City clearly is the biggest, and Buffalo's number 2. But Rochester is a relatively big city in New York State. So you think, well, if they could fix it, well, then maybe, they can fix other things. No.
It's a waterfall. It's a beautiful waterfall, but that's all it is. Putting taxpayer money into it wasn't the answer. But why would we think to do that? Here's why. That building is the Kodak headquarters. And years ago, this big business was a key part of what made Rochester great. 60,000 jobs. But then Kodak, all of a sudden, went away. Now, there's about 1,000 jobs.
Big
difference. Other 59,000 jobs, they're not coming back.
And there's the other piece that I bring up. You would think we'd learn, Olivia. You would think we'd learn. We do bad stuff to get rid of businesses, right? And then we think, well, they'll just come back. They don't come back. They left for a reason. They don't come back. All these jobs we've lost because of lockdowns, they're not just coming back. You're in Maryland, right?
Correct.
How are you seeing it in there? How bad have you guys been?
I've seen so many small businesses. I live in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and it's one of the most diverse cities in the nation. Nobody really knows about it because it's a suburb. It's not a very large city, but we have so many immigrants, people of color, Black people, Asians, Latinos, everybody living together. And there's a lot of minority-owned businesses here that are relatively new because it used to be a much more wider area. It's a suburb of DC. So as the city expands and gets a higher population, we also have a huge minority boom and an immigrant boom here. So it's been crazy to see a lot of these immigrant-owned businesses, majority Latino and African immigrants and Asian immigrants as well, have been basically shut down. Yes. It's really disappointing to see because there have been several businesses that I used to frequent, including a beauty supply store, a Mexican restaurant on the same strip mall here in Gaithersburg that have all been closed down due to COVID. And there's been some businesses that have held up. I work closely with a guy who owns a gym, and he never shut down. He never had the mask mandate, even though Montgomery County, Maryland had a shutdown mask mandate for a long time, and you can't even exercise indoors without a mask. He never had it on. But it's like the county executives came around and tried to shut him down, and he only survived because his clientele base leans more conservative. So he doesn't have a lot of people reporting him and things like that. But for a lot of other businesses that aren't, as hidden, it just destroyed it. It just destroyed it. Gaithersburg has gone completely downhill. Maryland overall has gone completely downhill.
And, there was literally a New York Times article on this talking about how people are leaving the states who are blue, but it's not just because of taxes. It is, obviously, but it's also because of what they feel is a lockdown mentality, right? The idea that you just can't do stuff. While I can see how somebody could feel, well, they're locking us down because they care. I could see someone believing that. It's not true, but I could see how someone could feel that. But now they're also feeling, I also can't do what I want to do. Like, I can't just live my life the way I want to live my life. And I feel when people start seeing that, they just leave. Are you seeing people leaving Maryland now, at least your area, or no?
Several people who have met through libertarian circles. When I went to the End the Damn Wars rally on 9/11, and when I went to the Libertarian Party of Maryland Mises Caucus event, I spoke to several people at each event that were from Maryland or the DC area saying that they're going to leave. They're either going to leave. I've talked to several people who are just leaving Montgomery County, which is outside of DC, and going upstate to Frederick County, or people are just going over to West Virginia, to Southern Virginia, Pennsylvania, areas where there's just not as much DC influence.
Yes, absolutely. The saddest part I see is, I've been calling a lot of people these last couple of weeks, couple of months actually now. And the amount of people who are like, Larry, I used to live in New York, I don't anymore. It's heartbreaking.
Really?
It's heartbreaking.
Are these people that supported your old campaign? Oh,
yes.
And they left. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, I can't count on you this time. You're not here anymore. Like, I'm losing votes because people are packing up and leaving. I'm not mad at them. I mean, they're doing what they think is right for their family and for their future. I get it. It's disappointing, though, because it is like a nudge to me saying, still bad. It's not fixed. It didn't work. You got to do it again. And it's making me keep wanting to keep fighting because they keep leaving and I don't want them to leave. I mean, that's really, it's sad for me.
Does that dishearten you? Because it's like these people who are leaving, they're not leaving for the wrong reasons. They're leaving because it's not free enough. Does that make you feel sad? Like, oh my God, my voter base doesn't even want to be in New York anymore.
It does. And here's the reason. Most people who are leaving New York actually love New York. They just hate our government. Most. There are some who don't like New York. It's too cold for them or something. That does happen. But most people who are leaving, they would rather stay. I mean, why would you want to leave your family and friends and business? Most would like to stay if the environment was better. Again, there are some who are like, nah, it's too cold, I'm out. That happens. But the majority of them leaving, because how do I know this? Because if you go back 20 years or so, New York was still growing. The weather was still bad then, too, in certain areas of the state. And people who didn't like it would go to Florida. That was still a thing. But often people would go to Florida for like just the winter. Now they go and they don't come back.
So I've been thinking of moving to Florida. I love Florida. I've gone to Florida like 3 times this year. I love it. It's awesome.
Yes. Yes. A lot of people are considering leaving, and I see it all the time. Don't encourage them. No, Florida's not that great.
It's okay. I'll literally move to New York to vote for you. I'll move to New York to vote for you. It'll be okay.
There we go. Yes.
Also, can we talk about how everybody thinks I'm your doppelganger? Every time I've hosted the show live on Thursdays, people have been like, oh, Larry, you did something different with your hair. You did something different with your makeup. I feel like people think I'm your daughter or something.
I love it. Hey, it's fine. You are my new adopted daughter. All good. I'm in. No worries. No worries.
Thank you.
You were teasing me was this in South Dakota or was it in Miami? You were teasing me. You said, Miami. Larry, why do you want to be my dad? You said something like that to me.
Okay, listen, everybody, listen. So I see Larry at the Solutionary Summit, which is Maj Touré's conference that was in Miami this year. And he's giving me this whole dad lecture about my future. And he's like, you got to believe in yourself. You got to not listen to these people. You got to put in that hard work. I'm just like, yo, what did I do? I didn't even do anything wrong. Why am I getting lectured to? So that's why I said you were acting like my dad. But you look like you could be my dad too. And then any light skins in the chat, we're gonna start the Libertarian Light Skin Caucus. So
that's next caucus.
Join that as well.
Yes.
But yeah, you were acting like my dad. I can't honestly, I liked it. I was like, I haven't had some fatherly talks in a long time, so I feel like my soul needed that. So I'm not even mad.
I appreciate that. Yes. I have a habit of giving people advice, whether they want it or not. I have a habit of doing that. So you're right. I did it. It's true. Everyone guilty as charged. I lay myself on the mercy of the court. Guilty as charged. Absolutely.
It's okay.
Good.
Thank
Let
you.
me keep going a little bit on this video, a little bit further. There's some more stuff here that I think is interesting on how it works.
Now, as a business consultant, I often talk to small business owners and I tell them, there's a rule. Try to not have more than 40% of your income coming from one client. Because if you do that, you can be in trouble if that client goes away and that client can control you. Well, a similar thing happened here in Rochester with companies like Kodak. Now, I'm not against big business, but if you have too much big business, all of a sudden now one goes away and you're in trouble. And that's what happened here.
And this is the point that New York doesn't learn. New York says, okay, we're in trouble, so let's get a big company to come in. Well, the big company sucks up 40, 50% of all the jobs, which is nice, right? But then now when it decides, I don't want to pay taxes anymore, what are you going to do? When it decides, I wanted you to build a road, what are you going to do? When it decides, I don't want to do this or I want that, what are you going to do? You're going to do what they say. They're most of your income. They're most of your jobs. You do whatever that company says because you don't want that company to leave. Now, the problem is when that company is there and you don't want them to leave, who's going to pay when the company says, I want you to build the road or I want you to build a bridge? The local people are going to pay the taxes. Now, the one thing I'm going to give de Blasio, my terrible mayor of New York, one thing I'm going to give him is he's honest. People say, well, he's a bad guy. He's honest. He really believes he's helping you. He thinks he is the smartest guy in the room. So his mask is always off. So when Amazon was going to come to New York and everyone said, you're going to have to rebuild a bunch of the infrastructure in the area where they're coming to support all of Amazon. And they asked him this question, but Amazon's not going to pay the taxes. What are you going to do? He said, oh, we'll tax the local businesses and they'll pay for it. Just said it in a press conference. He's honest. Yeah. I remember once he said he was teasing Fox News because Fox News said, Bill de Blasio likes wealth redistribution. He got in a press conference and quoted Fox News and said, they got it right. Yes, I am all about it.
He is one of the few politicians that is honest about being an open communist. Like he really, for real, is a communist, not a socialist, not a democratic socialist. He really wants to forcibly redistribute wealth, and that's what he wants to do. And you can see that by looking at the policies in his city and seeing how it's gone downhill.
It doesn't work, hasn't worked. New York City is a disaster. All those businesses are going away. They're not coming back. It's just like Rochester. But I'm just going to give credit where credit is due. That guy's honest. He's coming for you. That's not your money, Olivia. That's his. Just so you know that. That's his money, right? Okay. You thought that was your money. It's not. That's his.
Okay. I'm actually not going to move to New York to vote for you.
There we go. You might not want to do that because whatever you make, he owns. I'm just saying. It's his money. So let me keep going.
The answer is medium and small size businesses.
They're all
that
good.
Will help keep this area vibrant and resilient with the local people. Now, some people thought of that too, and they then tried to make that happen. But over here. But how do they do that? They did it again with taxpayer money. There is the problem. Taxpayer money, somehow guided by some bureaucracy in Albany, is not the right answer. We have to change our culture away from focusing on taxpayer handouts and taxpayer money.
Note what I didn't say. I didn't say government money once.
Because it's not. It's not
That's
theirs.
Correct.
It's not theirs. Even when they print it, it's still not theirs.
Yes. That's why I said 45 times, taxpayer money, taxpayer money. Because when you say government money, the average person goes, wow, it's just government money. It's not mine. It's government money.
I hate when people say government funded now. And I've had to and I'll catch myself saying stuff like that. But I think about libertarian messaging. It'll be even something small. Like I used to say capitalism a lot more than I do. Now I typically say free market or laissez-faire economy or Austrian economics or something of that nature. Because people don't know what that is. And it doesn't sound evil. And I think that people use capitalism to have a negative connotation, just like the same way they say government funded to make you forget that it's not taxpayer funded or the people funded.
Yes, absolutely. I love that.
Funded and directed by bureaucrats in Albany, and instead a culture to where we realize the right answer is local money from small and medium-sized business owners to build up the local community. It can't just be that. It must also be an environment to where these people are able to come in, be vibrant, be resilient, and grow small and medium-sized businesses to make places like Rochester, Syracuse, Buffalo, Albany, Ithaca, Utica, to make them not only prosperous, but also resilient. We need a new culture, a new environment. We need a new New York.
Now, the key there that I brought up was resilience. And that was 4 years ago. And it still exists today. And if we were resilient, we could bounce back from COVID. We could bounce back from recession. We could bounce back from inflation because we'd be resilient. That's the whole goal. You want to change the environment to be a more resilient environment so you can bounce back effectively. So small businesses can survive, medium can survive. You can go up and down. Some get smaller, some get bigger. That's not what we're doing at all. At all.
It's crazy how the government claims to be so anti-billionaire and so pro-working class when like the majority of these taxes, and they complain about all these tax loopholes that they still haven't closed, which only the billionaires can fit through. None of the small to medium-sized businesses can fit through these big-ass loopholes, apparently. And it's just insane to me. And it's like, to me, it's so simple. It's like, let's take away the regulations and foster these small businesses. And then we wouldn't even have to worry about these crazy monopolies. We wouldn't have to worry about like Elon Musk being a billionaire if everybody else didn't have to pay as much taxes and could open their business without regulation. But I think they know that. And I think that they're kind of using that to their advantage because they want to make it seem like the problem is billionaires and millionaires and rich people and corporations when I just, maybe it is a problem, but I don't think it's the problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. Is there an issue? Is there a wealth gap issue? Yes, that's true. That is an issue, and it's a problem. The issue is though that's not because of wealth redistribution that we did as people. That's because government policies created that. You shut down everybody during COVID so that we can only go to big box store Walmart or buy from Jeff Bezos. Well, that's what we do, right? So you literally starve the small business out and tell everybody else that they're a hero. You're a hero if you buy, watch Netflix and Disney, huge companies, right? Mm-hmm. And if you buy from Amazon, massive company, that makes you a hero. See that? Olivia, you're a hero.
Larry.
You know that?
You're getting too close to the truth, Larry. Stop.
There we go. Yes.
Stop. You're gonna shut this live stream down when you talk about how a lot of this whole last year has been really manufactured to benefit some really big monopolies, but
absolutely. Yes. And then they go, see, we're going to save you from Bezos, but you made him the monster that he is, right?
It's
you heard
insane.
You heard what Elon
same year
Musk
that we
was talking
saw
about.
like all these brick and mortar stores like Toys R Us shut down permanently, but Walmart, which has online shopping, online delivery, and grocery delivery, and Amazon, which has all that too, they're dominating the market now, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe Toys R Us and all these malls and department stores are closing because we weren't allowed to shop in person for like 2 years."
Yes.
What's so confusing?
Absolutely. I would ask you, that person that goes, "I can't believe malls are shut down." When's the last time we went to a mall? I can't remember. That's why they're shut down, right? I used to remember when I was a kid. When I was a kid, the mall's where you went to hang out. That was a thing you did. If you ever watched movies from the 80s, you would see kids hanging out at the mall because that's what we did in the mall. We hung out at the mall. That was the cool place to go. Not anymore.
I mean, that was definitely like my early teen years, but just lately, it's just been so much easier to buy things online. And then with COVID, you basically only can buy things online. At least last year, that was basically the only option. So,
right.
Yeah.
So we've. And this is the other thing, you see, I talk about it all the time, changing culture, changing environment. And I try my best to create all types of rules and regulations that will support a positive environment where people can do the right thing, right? If you have better environment, you have better outcomes. I don't hate the player, I hate the game, right? So if you make a better game, you get better players. But you don't see that here. We always blame, and you brought it up perfectly. We just blame Bezos. He's an easy bad guy. Let's blame the billionaire. He's an easy bad guy. We'll just blame him or her, usually him, but sometimes her, but usually him. We just blame him and then see, I'll just beat up that guy and everything will be fine. Now, if they were literally going to take all of Jeff Bezos' money and hand it out to us in the form of checks, well, I'd be 100% against that, but at least that would make sense, right? It would be violent and terrible and I wouldn't like it, but at least logically I could say, okay, you think you have so much money, you're going to take it all, divide it by 330 million Americans, and write everybody a check. Okay, I get that. But all they want to do is beat them up. So it makes even less sense if I'm making any sense, right? So let's get mad at Jeff Bezos. Okay, great. Are you going to take his money and give it to us? No, we're just going to sue him and stuff. Oh, okay. So he already has people who do it. You're going to spend taxpayer money to sue him so that he can have more money? Well, yeah, but I don't get it.
It's like, it's crazy because Elon Musk pays more tax dollars than any other American. Like, he literally just writes a check to the government and it's bigger than anything we'll ever give him. But somehow he's the cause of all the nation's problems. People like him are controlling the world and they're the reason why I'm broke. I'm gonna have to call BS on that one. I'm the reason I'm broke, but also the government, also the government.
yes. No, Bezos isn't running the world. He's going to Mars or whatever he's doing, right? He's not paying attention to us. He doesn't care about, he's not going, I wonder if I made Olivia poor enough yet. He's not doing that, right? He's not doing that.
He's plotting. He's plotting in the air.
Yeah. He doesn't care at all. So yes, absolutely. Let me grab a couple comments here if I could. So Rebecca says, Sam, Gary Johnson converted me. I was talking about earlier about Gary Johnson bringing me aboard. That is actually how I came aboard, is through Gary Johnson. So I will always.
It's hard to believe. How was it Gary that brought you aboard? Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Gary Johnson. There's so many other cool libertarians that could have brought people aboard. I'm so sorry.
I'm not. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All I'm saying is, and I mentioned this early in the last hour, the reason why Gary brought me aboard was because at that time, that's when I was open to hear, right? That was the time when I was open to hear. Like, I don't remember hearing Ron Paul until like 2014. Like, I heard his 2008 stuff. I didn't hear it until 2014. If that makes any sense. Because my brain was not open to hearing anybody in 2008. I wasn't hearing it. 2012, I was open to hear, and that's when Gary Johnson stepped up, and I was like, oh, that's why he was the person I needed to hear.
I don't know what that is either. I like this guy.
That was 2016. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No worries. But no, I mean, that's what brought me in. And I say all the time, different people bring different people in, which is why you see me connect with a lot of different types of libertarians, because I want anyone. I'm greedy. I want 7 billion libertarians. And that means a whole lot of messages. So I'm all good.
I think a lot of people are libertarians, but don't realize it. I thought I was like a Republican for a long time. And then I realized that I wasn't. And then I'm an independent. I lean a lot libertarian, and I agree with libertarians on, honestly, at this point, probably more stuff than I agree with the Republicans on. It's been really sad to see the party that I thought I aligned with when I first got into politics kind of, I don't know if it's devolving, because I guess it is what it always was, but I guess it's sad for me to make certain realizations about it. Because, I was, when I first got into politics, I was taught that, the Democrats don't care about us. They're the big government. They're communists. They spend too much money. They want to control your life. And I was like, I guess I'll be a Republican. And then I realized they're not all that different. And that was hard for me to realize.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So to your point, I'm not even judging you for being brought into it by Gary Johnson, because I didn't even hear the 2008 Ron Paul stuff until like last year. So it just came to me when I was open to realizing that the Republicans weren't all that.
Nate just says, I first heard Ron Paul in 2009, didn't hear him in quotes until 2011. Yes, it doesn't always land, right? It goes in and kind of bounces around for a bit, and all of a sudden you go, oh, that guy makes some sense. Yes, I think we all, depends upon where we are in our heads at what time, right?
Sometimes, I've had to apologize to people because when I was like fully on like the Trump training stuff, like 2017, 2018-ish, I was so against certain libertarians. Like, I remember I literally apologized to Justin Amash because I was so angry with him for not being a Republican anymore. I was so angry with him for not being the Trump train. And I remember last year I came back and tweeted and I spoke about on live stream several times, I was wrong about Justin Amash. He is a nice guy. I think he's a genuine guy. I think he did what he thought was right, and you don't have to support what I support to, want the best for Americans. I think he was right at the time, and I had to like realize that it was hard to come to terms with.
Yeah, no, look, we have to change. I thought, Ralph Nader was going to change the world back in 2000. I was a little bit wrong on that. Little bit wrong. But I thought that was going to be the thing, right? He was going to fix it. He's going to, back in the day.
Larry.
Yes. Shannon says, contributed from California. Larry, thank you so much, guys. If you like what we're saying, if you want to change this stuff, if you want, I showed a bunch of videos. Those are basic commercials that I ran, but I couldn't move them because I didn't have the cash, right? It takes money to move these commercials out. So I try my best to get them out to the best of my ability, but it's challenging if we don't have the cash to do so. It takes time. It takes money to move those commercials. I'll give you one more short one. This was also another concept I had before. Let me show you this one too. And I would just literally, as I'm crossing the state, is what we literally would do. I'd cross the state, talk to people, then go outside and just shoot a 2-minute video.
You look shivering in that video, Larry.
Yeah, I was cold.
I'm here in Saranac Lake, and I just left Fusion Market. It's a great little place, makes amazing sandwiches, and lots of local people here come by and buy their lunch every day. Some people, the sandwich is so big and so good, they buy the sandwich for one day and it's lunch for 2. This is the great thing about small towns like this.
Yes.
They're beautiful. They're nice. In fact, they have a ice palace over here on Lake Flower. This is Lake Flower. Ice palace here every winter. Kids come by, family comes by. It's awesome. It's great. You can see this is small town New York. It's great.
And I did this so often because I didn't want people to think, and too many people do think, that New York is just New York City. It is New York City, but it's not just New York City. It's a massive state that is very diverse and has all kind of great things to it. The lakes in New York State are amazing. I mean, maybe Canada could beat it. Probably not. But maybe. That's about it. Otherwise, New York is just amazing. And I wanted to show people this. And express, you hear I talk about local all the time because local does matter. And that's why I kept talking about it.
But you can't have small town New York without small business and tourism. And they used to have something here. They used to have rail bikes. People would come and raise money. It's touristy. It's fun. Support local businesses. But that went away. And it didn't go away because the business model was bad or the people didn't like it.
Yep.
It went away because bureaucrats in Albany decided it shouldn't be here.
And that's the part that drove me crazy. If people don't like rail bikes, okay, then that's a bad business model. People don't like it. Or if you're incompetent as a business owner or whatever. Look, I mean, maybe people didn't like it or something, but that's not what happened. Government stepped in and said, no. Gone. And you might say, well, that's okay, Larry, because, if there's something else there. No, it went someplace else.
I'm not making that up. Bureaucrats in Albany put their fingers into the business of this amazing small town and decided that had to go. Colorado got it, Rhode Island got it, and we lost it. Again, New York losing because Albany puts their fingers in some small town's business. We need a new way of thinking. This has to change. No more stepping in. No more New York losing. No more old money. No more old New York. We need a new New York.
I like that. That's a good point.
I bring that up again because people think, Larry, government should be saving businesses. No, government should not be destroying businesses. That's the difference.
Get out of the businesses. Just get out of it. You don't have to protect it. The market will provide. If there's a bad business that needs to go, I'm pretty sure people will just take care of it. People just won't spend their money there.
Absolutely. But the thing is, people like those rail bikes. That was a thing. People enjoyed it. I had actually never went on one before. By the time I got there, it was gone. So I never went on it. But people liked it. You could still see, if you go out there, there was still like some road places where it was. And the worst part is nothing's there now. Because here's how it works. We don't realize this. Government decides, oh, we should build something here. Why? Because one of my cronies who gives me lots of money would like to build something there. That's option one. Or two, that should not exist. Why? Because one of my cronies has something that competes with it and they don't want competition. That's usually what happens. Then I go, oh, okay, how do we get rid of that? I'll use the environmental conservation department, or I'll use eminent domain, or I'll use any government body that I want to decide this is no longer good anymore. Well, the problem is when I do that now, it takes years and months to fix this or whatever. No one's prepared to buy or build or wait those years to destroy this thing and then to build something. So now once it's destroyed, no one's ready to step up. So now just nothing is there. That happened in Rochester. That happened here. We had one thing in New York State in DeWitt where it was so bad, they spent, I forgot how many millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars to build out this facility that was going to be a film institute and blah, 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 all government run. There was no desire for it, no need. New York State sold it for $1 because it was too expensive to maintain. Yes. So literally tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars into this thing sold for $1 just because it was too expensive to maintain.
That is insane. This is like, that literally pissed me off. I'm not from New York. I've been to New York like a handful of times. That pisses me off. That pisses me off. Maybe I will move there just so I can change it. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. Doug says, I love your message, Larry Sharp. I hope it spreads nationwide, given the mess the duopoly continues to make out of it. I appreciate that. Yes. So if someone's asking, how are we doing on our fundraising? If I'm not mistaken, we've passed the $4,000 mark. I think a $5,000 mark. I think that's correct. I'm not 100% sure yet. So we are on our way up there to make this work. But we need to do more. I'm still looking for a total of 100 people to do $100 if you can, and 10 people to do $1,000. Please, if you can do it, please. If you can't, I get it. But if you can, why? That cool commercial you just saw, that video, that should have been viral everywhere. That should have been viral, particularly in New York State. It takes money to do that. I've got to pay for the ads on YouTube. I've got to pay for the ads on Facebook. I have to make all of those things happen, right? I have to keep making that happen. So it is challenging, but it can be done. That's where the money goes. For those who don't know, Larry, how do we know where the money is being spent? There's literally a report every 3 months. You can look online and see where all the money's gone. If you think, wait a minute, Larry, have you already done that? Yes. Since 2017, you can look at all my reports. Where does the money go? It's right there. So this is totally transparent. It's totally transparent. You're saying, Larry, I want to make sure that, we get enough cash to start getting ads and polling. You'll see it. If I'm lying, you'll see it. You can show me, and I'm sure you guys will call me out on it. There's no question you will. So yes, I'm sure you'll call me out on it. All good. So this is why I'm doing it. I know I'm being a nudge. I know I keep asking. I ask because it matters. The other two big candidates, whoever they are, they're going to raise millions. They're going to raise millions. And they may say, Larry, do you need millions? I don't need millions. Please give me millions if you have millions. But I don't need millions. I don't. I need a tipping point and a certain amount of money that's going to get me to enough New Yorkers to hear my message. Whatever that number is. I don't know what that number is. It might be $1 million. It might be $2 million. I don't know. But it's a number where all of a sudden New Yorkers go, I get it. That's a tipping point. Once they hear it, everything changes. The problem is still to this day, there are a lot of New Yorkers who don't know who I am. They don't know.
And we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. I think it's very doable. And I think that libertarian messaging is much more palatable and people want to hear it more than the generic Democrat or Republican messaging because they've already heard it a million times. They've already heard it. I think that there's a lot of New Yorkers who are, you know how to appeal to Democrats more than I do, but I think just from looking at New York and hearing about it, I think there's a lot of New Yorkers that are ready for a change that don't want to just pick from the duopoly anymore. There's a lot of Democrats that are tired of the vaccine passports, that are tired of all the overreach.
Yes.
There's a lot of Republicans that are like, voting for Republicans here seems kind of pointless. I mean, who else could I vote for? They're going to look for libertarians. So I think it's very, very possible.
Absolutely. I think, and with my tactic trying to connect with left and right, I think it's the only way. I don't see another way. Chris says, thank you, Larry, for your message. Your candor has taught me how to talk better with friends and family. Oh, nice. I'm glad. I've been able to pull others to liberty with that message. That's what I want to hear. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. You make my night when I hear that. I mean, that's really what I'm trying to achieve. Absolutely. Dottie says, school violence is linked to the way the media portrays the perp as a 5-minute hero. Oh, interesting idea, Dottie. I think there's some validity to that. I think we've been recently better in that. I think in the last 4 years, 3 years, I think you've seen the media not be as bad. They don't do it as much. They have definitely, backed off of that a bit. I think that's true. I don't know. What do you think, Olivia?
I think that a lot of it has to do with the media fanfare that surrounds school shooters. We shouldn't be putting their name and their face and all that kind of stuff on the news. Right. I think that at the root of the cause for all these school shootings is, when you think about it, America and Americans have always been very heavily armed. Children used to have way more access to firearms than they do now. I mean, now there's safes and all this information in place, but the way my dad grew up, there's just guns lying around the house, and him and his 8-year-old brother could just go out and shoot cans if they wanted to. So it's obviously, to me, it's cultural. There's a mental health crisis. There's a crisis with glorifying school shooters, like we already talked about, that hero fanfare they get on the media, right, and the sob story that they were bullied and stuff. But when I look at the school shooters, it's never somebody who is disabled. It's never somebody who is an immigrant. It's never somebody who is homeless. It's never somebody who, have these things going on that teenagers typically really, really pick on. I think it's usually just kids that are genuinely really mentally ill, and they need help. And a lot of kids don't like them because they're mean kids, and then they take it out on the kids. And like you said before, when I first got in, it's a very public way of committing suicide. And they're just, it's a mental health crisis. And because because of this, it's creating like this whole phenomenon where we're trying to blame Americans for holding onto their guns, and blaming the NRA and blaming guns in general for this. But Americans have always had guns, but school shootings haven't been a thing until a few decades ago. So just
all right, Olivia, I need you to stay with me, but I'm gonna have to kick you to the curb for a second.
I know we have someone more famous than me.
I gotta use my magic powers.
It's okay. Bring him in.
I gotta use my magic powers to summon the one, the only, the man himself, Justin Amash. How are you, sir?
Hey, Larry. How you doing?
I am very happy to have you in this evening for my celebrity Larry-thon.
Thanks. Good listening to you and Olivia and other people too. So
yes, absolutely. I had Hannah Cox. I had Spike Cohen. So I had them all here. They're the celebrity part. I'm the Larry-thon part. So in case you were confused, that's how that works. So I appreciate you coming by. Tell people, what are you doing? Give us some insight to what's going on.
I'm having fun, spending time with my family, having a good time.
Love it. I love it. I'm glad.
Yeah, I've been traveling around a little bit. I've been doing some stuff with the Libertarian Party. As you know, we've run into each other in a few places, and I think that's important, building up the party. So I've been working on that directly by going to party events, but also I'm working on stuff in the background and trying to see what we can do to make a difference come 2022 and 2024.
I love that. As you know, I am going out of my way to try to build a good party infrastructure here in New York State, trying to make a bunch of positive things happen. I've been showing my videos and my kind of commercials from 2018 and saying, look, has anything changed, right? All the people who said, don't vote for Larry Sharp. Larry Sharp was talking about stuff that mattered. Is it important? I'm going to show one more. I've been showing a bunch of them. I'm going to show one more. This is about small businesses that I talked about. I was running around, I think it was Rensselaer County, which is up by Albany. Let's see this one real fast.
New York is losing over 100,000 people every single year. They're fleeing our state. They're leaving because they don't see opportunity, because they don't believe there's something for them here. We're losing our youth. And if you're a New Yorker, particularly here in upstate, you're seeing your children run away. If you're a grandfather, a father, a mother, an aunt, a friend, you're watching your people your people you care about leave this state to find opportunities someplace else. One of those reasons is we don't have enough family local businesses. It's one of the reasons. Like a business right here. I'm in Rensselaer, outside of Albany, on Rensselaer Avenue, the Skyline Diner. I just ate there. By the way, amazing steak and eggs, and the service is perfect. Tony's the owner. He told me, he said his family works here. His friends work here. And he's in New York, and he's going nowhere. He's here to stay. That's what we need more of. More of that to keep our youth here, not just educate them and walk away. We need more of the Skyline Diner. We need more of Fred's Discount Tire and Auto. We need more of Pratt & Sons. We don't have enough. One of the reasons is government is not facilitating this. Government is taking the time to make it as hard as possible to have that small business. That's got to end. We've got to simplify taxes. We've got to simplify regulation. We've got to simplify and remove the barriers to people starting businesses and retaining small businesses. We're going to save Main Street.
Now, I put that together literally, 4 years ago. And what I would say is I spoke about these ideas. Nothing's changed. Justin, nothing's changed. Literally, we're making it harder. COVID lockdowns made it harder. We're not resilient. Inflation is literally because we have too much money compared to goods and services. Now we can't create goods and services. Nothing but bad. And people told me all the time, Larry, I can't vote for you because it's a wasted vote. Well, what happened? You didn't vote for me. And did it get better? I was right then. I'm kind of right now. I mean, you must see that everywhere you go.
Oh, sure. We see this all the time. And, the only wasted vote is the vote that goes for one of these, two old parties where you have the candidates that they recycle year after year, who do the same things, promise the same things, achieve nothing, and violate people's rights, violate people's liberty. If you leave people alone, if you let people make decisions in their own lives, you will get much better results. People know how to come together. They know how to come together as communities. And what's really harmful, we talk about a position like governor, is when someone comes in at the state level in some capital somewhere else in the state and says, this is how you and your community are going to do it. And they don't know anything about the community. They don't know anything about the community. And all it does is put roadblocks in your way.
Yes. And the worst part is they don't even know who Tony is in the Skyline Diner. They've never met Tony. They have no idea who he is.
No, but they want to tell him exactly how to run his business. They want to tell him who can go into his business, who can work there, how they're going to operate. They think they know the whole thing. And then the worst part of it is, and I don't know if you talked about this earlier, but they come in and we have this in the state of Michigan, and they'll say, oh, we want to give out these tax credits to everyone. Let's give it to some big company to come in here. And sometimes they'll give it to competitors of the very businesses that are struggling right now. They'll say to Tony or whoever, they'll say, we're not going to help you one bit. But guess what? We've got some money to give to someone who's going to open up right across the street. And they're coming in from out of state, and we're going to help them build their business. And we're going to do a little more to hurt you by bringing in a competitor and keeping all the strings in your way. So,
absolutely,
it's a disaster.
I go one step further with this at more of a. I look at some of the, particularly outside the cities, how they have been so devastated by things like poverty or drugs or depression and homelessness, all these things. When someone's in trouble and maybe they've spent 2 years in jail, or they spent a year or 2 or 3 being an addict, or whatever the case may be, and now they're trying to reboot their life. They're trying that second chance, right? They can't go to the big business. The big business literally has systems there to make sure they don't hire them, right? There are systems made to make sure they don't hire you and don't give you a second chance. The people who are going to give you a second chance is Tony at the Skyline Diner, right? That guy is going to give you a second chance. I spend a lot of my time as I cross state eating at diners. It's one of the things. And the funny thing about it is I'll do a video talk about an important issue in front of 50 people. Nobody watches. I do one picture of me in front of a diner saying I just had steak and eggs, 3,000 likes. People just love the picture of me getting eggs or whatever. They just love that. And I think the reason is they see that I'm actually talking to people. And to every diner I go to, whenever people are chatting about anything with second chances, I always ask the owner or manager to come out. And I'll say, you've hired felons before, haven't you? And they always go, yes. Always. I say, you've hired people who you know were addicts, right? Yes. Every time. I do it live. So if they tell me no, I'll look an idiot. But they never say no. They always say yes, because those are the ways, the local community, where you actually get a second chance at life. If you want less people to be homeless, less people to go back to jail, you've got to give them a chance at a second chance at life. Big business does not do that well.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you've got to have those small businesses. You've got to have that community that's thriving, and that's where people are going to get the second chance. The big company has a certain type of person they're looking for,
yep.
And often the people who are in those struggling communities, they're not going to get the same opportunity that they might get with a diner, with these local places, and that's why we got to keep them empowered. And it's not about giving them things. They don't necessarily, they're not asking for handouts or, give us all this stuff. A lot of times it's just get out of our way. Stop putting all these barriers in our way to being successful. And if government could just do that, things would be a lot better for people.
Well, I brought up the idea that I talked about, again, 4 years ago. There's a law, I think it's in Wyoming. And Wyoming says if you are a farmer in Wyoming and you agree to sell only in Wyoming, you are immune from all federal regulatory bodies. So I say add that in New York State for every business, right? If you're a diner in New York State and you're not selling across the border, why does it matter? If you're a farmer, why does the USDA matter? There are local and state rules you can follow. You want to sell raw milk or whatever is the rule you want to go ahead. I mean, do your thing. I think we can copy that all over the place, and we'll see a lot more people staying in New York. And the reason why I bring that part up is, I mean, I know Michigan has a lot of farms too.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
New York has tons of farms. And the problem with most farms, as I'm sure you know, is the kids leave, right? The kids don't stay. So the families get broken up. And most of the time you find farmers who a farm is a part-time business for them. They have to have a job to pay the bills. And then they work their farm because they love their farm, because literally it's a 6 or 7 generation farm. They don't want to get rid of it. So if you all of a sudden allow the farmers to be small businesses on their own, they can open up wholesale facilities, retail facilities. In the case of some animals, they can do slaughtering facilities, whatever they want there, craft grows or craft cheeses, whatever is the thing they want to do. You'll find the kids stay, because while they might not want to work on the farm, they want to be a marketer, or they want to be an operations chief, or they want to be a thing that the farm needs once it becomes a business. They want to do that. And I feel you'll get families to stay more locally instead of rushing off to cities all the time. Again, not that I'm against cities. I live in one, right? I'm not against cities. But the problem is, and I'm sure you know this, most people who watch it may not, since the crash of 2008, there's been really no recovery except in cities. About 80% of all new jobs have come out of 20 cities in the United States, one of them being New York. So people are rushing to cities because there's no other alternative. And that's wrong. You should rush to the city because there's some cool city stuff you want to do, not because there's no alternative in your hometown. That's the bigger problem I see.
Yeah, absolutely. And a big part of this, again, is because there's a one-size-fits-all approach to everything.
Yes.
The state governments are looking at their big cities, whether it's New York City, it might be Detroit in Michigan, or Grand Rapids, the area where I live, and they're looking at these big cities and they're saying, okay, what's the policy for these cities? But they're forgetting the millions of people who live throughout the state, who live in very different kinds of communities, who have a need for very different kinds of rules, and they should be able to make decisions for themselves on how to operate. And when you have a one-size-fits-all policy and it's based on helping these big cities and not helping anyone else, it's not surprising that you get people then leaving the small towns, leaving the rural communities, because they're being hurt by the state capitals, and they're left with a few options.
My other issue I see all the time, which drives me crazy, is so when the state mandates so much from the counties, New York State is horrible. Literally, we have so many unfunded mandates that there are some counties, they begin their budget in a negative because they literally have to pay for everything the state tells them to pay for. So if you begin your budget in a negative, why would the local people even care? They can't fix their own roads. They can't do anything. So now you force it because a county doesn't have a Fed, so it can't print its own money. So since the county can't print its own money, it falls back to the only thing it knows, which is using law enforcement as a profit center. That's all it has. It's got cops, right? It has nothing else. It's got cops and inspectors, and it's got to raise money because it's literally negative. So now that's my profit center, and that's all they know. And this is really because people don't realize this. This is because centralized control forces them into it. Would some do it? Of course some would. But they all do it because there's really no option. The environment is so bad.
Yeah, and you see in some of these budgets in local communities that civil asset forfeiture ends up being part of the budget because they're going in and they're saying, we've got to take enough property from people to help pay our bills. And absolutely. And then it encourages something which is a violation of people's rights, taking their property without due process, taking property from people who haven't committed any crimes, who haven't been charged with anything, and just saying, hey, you're guilty until proven innocent. We're going to take your stuff, and if you want it back, and if you want this money back, or your car back, or whatever it might be, your computer, or what it could be, any number of things, you're going to have to prove that it's used for legit purposes, or you got the money in a legit way. So it puts our whole justice system on its head, where you're guilty until proven innocent.
Yes, and then the other part that happens here now is once you start doing that, how do you back off? Right? Once you've been doing it for so long, how do you your police force is now accustomed to this. This is now their culture. It's what they do. So even if you change the rules, the cops are like, but I'm supposed to bust this guy and take his money, right? I've been doing it for 12 years. No, you got to stop now. But well, now what do I do? Right? I mean, this has been my job for 12 years. So now what do I do? I think you have a cultural issue where even the police force doesn't even know how to act now. So, and the average person is scared, right? You spent so much time doing this, people don't know. And the other part is the local people who are in charge in theory, haven't actually been in charge for at least 10 years, if not 20. So now if we put them in charge, do they even know what to do? Right? The issue I bring up is many of my policies are about letting people voluntarily begin to take over, right? I know people talk about the button. If you could press the button and get rid of government tomorrow, would you do it? And I would say no. And I know some people, libertarians, get mad at me. I would say no. And the reason is, if we got rid of government today, right now, we would rebuild something worse. Because the second that government would go away, people don't know how to act right now. So the masses of people who've been relying on government for 20, 30, 40 years was like, no government, the world's ending. We better build something again. And they build something even worse right now. We have to change our culture so that people are prepared to support each other locally. So that now people have needs and they need to be supported. But we need community to be doing that, family to be doing that, not government. So we've got to help people locally to start doing that. And one of the things I brought up, it's an idea I had from, again, 4 years ago, is allowing anyone who has to send their taxes to Albany every year to send up $250 instead of going to Albany, but go to any nonprofit they want. If that nonprofit is within their county, it's doubled to $500. And people say, well, $500, is that really much? If 1,000 people do it, yeah. 10,000 people do it, yeah. And all of a sudden now we start finding a competition to government where that community now competes. So now either government gets better or government goes away. But if government goes away, we know community is there to pick up the slack because people have gone to community. And I think that's one of the ways I try to incrementally kind of change those societies, because I see it often. I remember, I'm sorry, I'm yapping away, but I remember once it was someone was talking about school choice. And they said, look, if not the government, who is gonna, isn't you better a better person to, educate your kids to decide. And most New York City people said, no, if not government, I don't know who. It's government's job to educate my kids. They can't imagine something else, which is why I'm trying to build out credits to start private schools and to homeschool, so that people will begin to learn, yes, you can educate your kid. You can pick schools that would work for your kid. You can do all those things. There are masses of people, particularly in my state, who they can't even imagine that.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is common sense. It's something that we've talked about in this country from the beginning of the country, which is that we divide powers, we decentralize things, we have a belief in localism. Something I often talk about is that when this country started, the entire country, if you go back to the founding era, the entire country had 3 or 4 million people. We're talking about a pretty small country in terms of population. Right. And yet even with that population, they were like, hold on here. We've got to really divide these powers up. We don't want any one government making decisions for all 3 or 4 million people. That's right. That would be crazy. They believe that would be insane. And so they said, okay, we're going to have the federal government do these limited number of things that are broadly applicable to the entire nation, that matter to everyone in the nation. And it was things like defense, right? You have defense from foreign enemies. It makes sense. Sure. It makes sense that you're united on that front. You're one country and you're not united on that front. But a whole bunch of other things they said we're going to leave to the states. And the states at those times, at that time, were very small. I mean, we're talking about states with a few 100,000 people at most. Some of them,
so everybody was Wyoming.
Yeah, so they were very small states. These are states that are smaller than cities today, than many cities. Yeah. And yet, even then, even beyond that, they were like, we divide powers even more, lower than the states. We have local governments, we have community governments. So this idea of localism, of decentralization, has existed from the beginning of the country. And the idea is to protect your rights. The idea is to protect this concept. I often hear people on the left talk about democracy, but what kind of democracy is it if one government that's very far away from you makes all the decisions? What kind of democracy is that? And in our current system, it's actually just a few people. It's not even one government. It's like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and maybe Mitch McConnell gets in there too from time to time. Well, so it's Joe like, Joe Manchin. So you have it's like literally a handful of people making decisions for the entire country. What kind of democracy is that? So when people are concerned, rightly, people are concerned about things like voting rights. But you have to remember, if you are able to vote, but then the government is run by just 1 or 2 people, you don't really have much of a democracy.
Yes.
So we want to divide powers. We want an actual democratic system where people can make decisions for their own lives. I mean, the democracy, when you really think about it, it's like rule by the people, right? Or by essentially by the individual. And so we want that to be we want a true democracy where you can make decisions for your life. And right now you don't really have that. And that's why when the founders were looking at things like how to set up the government, they came upon, hey, let's design it as a constitutional republic where we do have divided powers, where we have federalism, where the federal government does certain things, the state government does certain things. They understood how to use the tool of democracy in a way that would maximize liberty for the individual.
I would argue that even with voting rights, the current system, we still don't have a functioning democracy. And I think the answer, I'm totally biased, but is Libertarian Party. And I think the answer is Libertarian Party because once there's a third party, people say all the time, well, Larry, you guys aren't going to have 51% of the Congress, whatever. Yeah, that's not going to happen soon. I got it. But still, if right now in our state, my state Senate or the federal Senate, if there were 3 libertarians, we'd control the Senate. We'd be the Joe Manchin. We would be the swing vote in Senate. We would actually have some control. But more importantly, we'd be viable. There'd be gold on the map. And once there's gold on the map, a very important thing changes. Gerrymandering. Gerrymandering right now, as you know, and the audience may not know, is a huge problem. Right now, the parties pick the voters. Parties, as you know, shouldn't even exist. But they do. That's where we are. They exist. Got it. That's what parties exist. But they now pick the voters. So they say, I want these voters. Okay, you have these voters. So now every district's gerrymandered. Not everyone, but the vast majority of districts are gerrymandered. So we know that the red or the blue team wins in almost every district. So the other teams sometimes doesn't even run anybody. Depends. But then the parties pick who runs in that district. So the people don't vote for the party. And then if there's no primary, they don't even vote for the actual person.
You're right.
So voting is irrelevant. We don't have a functioning democracy. But if we have a Libertarian Party, gerrymandering is broken by default because it only works when it's 2. Once it's 3, that begins to be broken. Once that's broken, now the people will have an actual choice and will have a working democracy.
That's absolutely right. And, I hate to quote Donald Trump here, but I say, what do you have to lose? Look at these 2 parties and what they've been doing, these 2 old parties for years, and we're getting the same crappy results. And increasingly, we have these parties just fighting with each other while actually not able to accomplish anything. Like members of Congress don't even vote on things.
Yes.
I don't mean, when I say not accomplish things, I don't mean just like they're not giving you what you want, because that's never going to happen. In any representative system, you're not always going to get what you want. That's how
Right.
We have to accept that. That's how a system works. We live in a country with, hundreds of millions of people. We live with millions of people just in our own states. So we're talking about big places. And even in your own community, you might live in a city that has hundreds of thousands of people, or it might be a small community. But whatever the case, you're not always going to get your way. But we aren't even able at this point to do anything. In other words, members of Congress, people at home think that they're actually voting or making decisions on their behalf. They're not really. Correct. They're not. I mean, they don't read the bills.
Yep.
They don't even see the bills.
Yep.
For the most part. I mean, they're like, I saw like a couple weeks ago, maybe it was about a week ago, a little more than that, the NDAA. This is the National Defense Authorization Act. That was released. It was unveiled, and it's more than 2,000 pages. It was unveiled on Tuesday afternoon, and they passed it with an overwhelming majority that same day. 2,000. You think they read it? They didn't read it. They don't know what's in the NDAA.
No idea.
Nor could they amend it. They couldn't change it. It was take it or leave it. And it's presented as, well, you're either, you're with us or you're against us. You're with the leadership team or you're against the leadership team. So these 2 parties have been playing this game, and we need to break that duopoly. And that means getting people like Larry elected. And that's why I want to encourage people. He didn't ask me to do this, but I want to encourage people, go to LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon. Please support Larry. We need people like Larry in government making a difference, because he will help return power to the people. Let you make more decisions in your own life. This doesn't mean, for the people who are worried, sometimes the people say, you brought this up, well, doesn't that mean there's going to be no government? No, Larry's not talking about no government. He's talking about the proper governance for your community. There are different levels of government. They're going to be doing different things. The federal government's still going to be doing some things. If we had a libertarian world, you'd still have these associations. You'd still have things like states working together for national defense. But it would be all placed in its proper context. The federal government would do certain things, the state government would do certain things, and local communities would do certain things. And a lot would be left to you and your family and your local center where you work and live and play to make decisions for your own life. Because that's what living is, right? It's about making decisions, about having choice for your own life. If we're just robots and we're told we have to do everything from some faraway place, we're not really living. That's not bringing us happiness, bringing us joy. So please go to LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon.
Thank you so much, bro. That's amazing. Yes, he's right. Yes, absolutely. Look, we're trying to raise a big chunk of money. As I said before to many of you, if I'm a Republican, a Democrat, I got to raise millions of dollars, or I'm some kind of chump or some kind of crazy guy. They're not going to take me seriously, but I'm not. I'm libertarian. And I am, generally speaking, judged poorly because of libertarian in almost everything, except raising money. If I raise a couple $100,000 by January, people will be like, oh my God, look at what this guy did. So this is the one time that I'm actually judged at an advantage, right? If I was a Republican or Democrat and I raised $200,000 by January, they will laugh at me. As a libertarian, they will go, oh my God, this guy's serious. And you guys know we raised $500,000 last time. We can do it again. And I've been showing you this whole time, the last 3 hours, I've been showing you all my videos that I did last time, all my commercials that I did that I couldn't get out to let everybody see. They were right then, they're right now, and I can make even more if I get the cash to get it out there so that people can see it. That's a critical aspect. We can actually make this happen. We get in the debate stage. We can make real change. Larry, do you think you're going to save the world? No, I don't. Do I think I can be the guy who sets it up to be saved? Yes, I do. I believe I can be part of that team that sets this world up to be saved. Yep, I hope, and when it's saved one day, I hope people go back and go, remember that Larry Sharp guy? I hope that happens. That is my goal. I think it can happen. I hope you guys will help me to achieve that. So we're trying to get 100 people at $100 and 10 people at $1,000. If we do that, we are rocking it tonight, guys. I hope we can do that. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Justin. I apologize.
And Larry, I'm going to say, just for people who are watching, because they'll hear about the Libertarian Party and they'll say, well, you guys aren't going to make things, you're not going to fix everything. No, we're not going to fix everything. The world is an imperfect place.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make the world perfect. The issue is not what is perfect. The issue is, can we improve things? Can we make things better? Is it better for people to have more choice in their own lives? It's not about some kind of perfect ideal, because we're flawed human beings. Everyone is a flawed human being. People make mistakes. People are biased. People have mistakes of judgment. There are going to be problems even in a society governed by libertarians. There's going to be problems. But the issue is, what kind of problems? How do they compare to the problems we see today? And what kind of choices do people have in a libertarian world? Can they achieve and seek the kind of happiness that they want? And that's what we're striving for. It's not because your life is going to be perfect if you elect Larry Sharp or any other libertarian. It's because we can make things better by following principles that allow you to make more decisions for your own life. And that's I think what we're all striving for as human beings. How can we take more control of our own lives instead of feeling like we are just being run through the whole circus by someone who's directing the show? And right now you got these two old parties directing the show, and I think a lot of us feel like we don't really have control over our lives.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. Look, I always say it, the libertarian movement is not actually about liberty. It's about happiness. I always say it. And liberty and freedom is really a means to an end, not an end itself, right? If we're free to pursue happiness, then we'll be happier. But if we're not free, how can we pursue happiness? It is impossible. We're relying upon someone else to give us happiness. When is that going to work? Right? Never. Right? That's not how it works. But we have to pursue happiness ourselves. And the more freedom we get to do that, the better it's going to be. I completely agree. That's amazing. Thank you. So, Justin, tell us what you're doing. How can we follow you?
Well, you can find me at Justin Amash on Twitter and elsewhere. I'm on Instagram too, but I just post pictures that I took on Instagram. So it's actually private, because I don't use it for any political thing. It's just private pictures that I've taken, and some people follow me on there. But check out at Justin Amash. And I'm right now spending as much time as I can with my family, of course, because I was 10 years in Congress, and after that, you really need to unwind and spend some time and make sure that you're getting the chance to see your kids in ways that you never got to see them before. I was often gone while special events were going on, so I want to be there and spend as much time as possible. But I've been working on some projects in the background, and I'm trying to help build up the Libertarian Party, build up libertarianism. I think that for a lot of people, libertarianism is not well defined. I think that they don't know what it's really about. There are a lot of people who are curious about it. There are a lot of other people who have their biases or impressions about it, and often those are very wrong. They don't, because they've been, because we are in some ways at the mercy of these two old parties who, anytime you get libertarians like Larry starting to shake things up a little bit, they say, oh, well, this is what libertarians are, and they try to scare you.
Yep.
But I want to tell people here that libertarianism, you know, we talked about happiness being an important aspect of it. Like the goal is to achieve maximum happiness for the maximum number of people. That's really what we're all about. And when you look back at libertarian thinkers throughout history, really what we're trying to do is enhance human cooperation. And that is often misunderstood, because when you hear about libertarians and you hear about individual liberty and individual rights, people often forget the why we seek those things. The reason we're seeking those things is because we want to maximize human cooperation. We want people to be able to work together and make decisions together. But because actually, any one of us on our own, we're limited in our abilities. We don't, an individual person doesn't know that much. An individual person can't accomplish that much, honestly. I mean, you have to work with other people. It's about getting together and cooperating. And what really happens with the old parties is they try to destroy human cooperation. Their view is that a few people sitting in a room somewhere else in some faraway city, without any of the knowledge of the community, without any of the talents or assets that you would find in a community, they believe that those people can arrange us like we're chess pieces and make decisions for our lives and think that we're going to achieve maximum human cooperation that way. But that's a way to stifle cooperation.
Yes, absolutely.
Nothing stifles cooperation more than being directed by some faraway person who doesn't even know our interests or our talents.
Yes.
What we really want is to maximize the ability of individuals to use their own skills, their own talents, their own abilities to work together.
Yep.
And so really, libertarianism, it's about happiness. It's about human cooperation. It's about living together and loving others and working together and growing together as a society. And I think that's often lost. It's not really about people in isolation. If anything, it is the two old parties who are all about isolating people and acting like there are these superhumans who live in state capitals and in Washington, D.C., and these superhumans can decide everything for you.
They know it all.
They know it all. These are incredible individuals, according to them. They're incredible individuals who can decide and resolve all of our problems just by getting together in some room. 10 of them or 15 of them can get together in a room and they can decide everything for everyone. Forget about human cooperation as far as they're concerned. We don't need all of that interaction. We just need these superhumans to figure out everything for everyone.
Yes.
And so the two old parties are really the opponents of cooperation. Therefore, top down. Therefore, a few people making decisions for everyone. Therefore, denying people the use of their talents and skills and abilities and knowledge. And so really we are the party, we are the philosophy of cooperation, working together and trying to achieve maximum happiness.
I think if at my day job before I quit working last month, but when I used to work, my day job was business consulting. Is what I did all the time. I was a trainer, consultant, executive coach when need be. I've been office in a public company a couple times. So I'll do that kind of thing. When in business, when some leader says, Larry, my leaders aren't doing what I want them to do. My junior people aren't doing what I want them to do. I never go, you know what you need? Iron fist. That's the answer. I've never said that once, right? I was like, you know what? You need to give them actually a bunch more freedom. And he goes, but some of them are bad. I said, I know. And with all the rules you've created, the bad ones are hiding behind the rules.
Yep.
But if you have less rules, those who suck will collapse and those who are good will excel. They'll be clear which ones are which, and you know which ones to get rid of, but you won't have to get rid of them because once the people can't hide anymore, they'll quit. So you'll lose them anyway. So the goal is more freedom. You will struggle for the first couple of months, but you've been struggling for years. So struggle for a couple of months. You'll watch those couple people flounder and leave, and others will get better and be fine. And the second thing I tell them is, for you to be successful, you're looking for the gold. And the gold is unity of purpose with diversity of thought. If you can create that in any organization, business, party, family, doesn't matter what it is. And usually family has the best chance of having that, but not always. Sometimes that doesn't work either. But often that's the goal. No political party or top-down mentality will ever get you either of those two things, which is why bureaucracies fail all the time. Because what winds up happening actually is diversity of purpose with unity of thought. The exact reverse of what you need is what you get. So no one's trying to help anybody. They're just trying to get through their day. They all have to think the same way, otherwise they get fired. And now no one gets helped. And most organizations, sadly, are run by inertia. I'm completely agreeing with you on everything you just said. I appreciate it. It's great.
Yeah. We're the party of diversity. We're the philosophy of diversity. We believe that all of the different people out there have different talents, different skills. We want to maximize their ability to come together to solve problems. This is how progress happens in society. It's by utilizing all of our different talents and skills, not just the talents of 3 people in Washington, D.C.
Right.
They're not resolving anything for us. I want to be able to work with my neighbors, my friends, my community. I want to be able to work with all sorts of people, utilize all of our talents and abilities to get through and solve problems. And that's why I'm a libertarian, honestly. Yeah. It's because I believe in diversity of thought. It's because I believe in human cooperation. It's because I believe that there's something bigger than me, and that's that we can all work together and progress, and we can make a difference for the next generation, for Absolutely. People like my kids, and for everyone out there who has kids, for that next generation. We want to make a difference for them. So speaking 100%. Of kids, I want to go spend time with my kids now, Larry, but
please,
I want everyone, please support Larry. Go to LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon. Support him if you can. It will make a difference. We are going to make a difference. And, the two old parties have failed us, and it's time for something different. And it's time for people to work together and to have that opportunity to work together and to do things that they think are best in terms of decision making, not what someone in some far off capital thinks is best. So
excellent.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good
Spend
work.
time with your family.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Take care.
Bye. So I'm very happy to have Justin here. That was great. I hope you guys enjoyed what he was talking about. And he's saying what matters to all of us, right? He's saying what matters to all of us. Please follow him on Twitter. See what he's doing, right? I'm sure he's going to be doing something cool. Follow him to the best of your ability. It makes sense. And of course, listen to what he said. He said, give me money. He was right. You should do that. I'm not asking now. He is. I can blame him now. Please share this with everyone you think wants to hear this message. I know it's long, but you know what? If I can sit here and punish myself for 4 hours, which I'm doing, actually not punishment. I actually love it. So I got to stop lying. It's great stuff. I hope you guys can help me out. I'm looking still for 100 people to give $100 and 10 people to give $1,000. I would appreciate that so we can make a big $20,000 hit and make this work. So again, please like, comment, share. And I'm going to use my magic powers and I'm going to bring back Olivia. She's been so good. Thank you, my dear, for waiting in the wings. I apologize. Thank you so much.
I mean, it was just an Amash. Like, what was I supposed to be like? No, don't bring Justin Amash on. Like,
I didn't know if I wanted to bring you on with him, and then you might get mad at him or something. So I had to be good keeping it because you might get mad. I'm kidding.
Now I'm embarrassed. Like, I don't know if you heard that part where I was saying I used to not like him that much, but I've tweeted about it before, so you may have seen it before. But
no, he wasn't on when you did that. He wasn't on.
Oh,
so good. Yeah. Yeah, no,
but no, that's a legit thing that happened. I criticized a lot of libertarians back in my days as somebody who thought I was just going to be a Republican, and then I turned out not to be a Republican. So I have to do a lot of apologizing now.
No, I really think that everybody, not everybody, most people in the liberty movement came from someplace else, right? They either were unaffiliated or they were Democrats or Republicans or something. So for us to point our finger at somebody who came from a different spot, it's silly. There's a lot of people who came from someplace else. It's a normal way of doing things, right? And I'm odd in that I was never part of a political party before Libertarian, so it actually is my first party. But I was always the rebel guy. Like, I wasn't joking. I voted for Nader. Like, I thought that was going to be a thing. I was like, Ross Perot will save us. Like, I was that guy who thought these people would do something. So I came from just hating everybody.
I do think that's pretty unique to never have been a member of either party, though. That's where I'm at now, but I've only been of legal voting age for like 2 years, so it's not that impressive.
Yes.
I don't think.
No, I didn't join a political party till I was in my 40s.
Dang, you're old.
I am old. It's true. It's true. I am old. I didn't join a political party till the first party I joined was the Libertarian Party, and I joined in 2012. In 2012, I was 44 years old.
Wow. I'm bad at math. I'm not going to attempt to do the math. All I'm going to say is you're old.
I am. I'm 53 now. So yes.
Okay. Yeah, you're like the same age as my dad. You could be my dad. That's crazy.
I told you. I've decided. I've just deemed it so.
Okay.
Totally unlibertarian. You're now my adopted daughter. Done. Right. I've just deemed it.
That's fine, but you're going to have to fight Spike because Spike also says he's my dad too.
Yeah, but Spike's younger than me, so I got power over him.
Yeah, that's true. But listen, when I posted a picture of me between Spike and Tasha, so many people thought they were my parents. Like, I think I could stay next to any interracial couple and people think they're my parents, but I'm just saying.
Yep.
Just saying, right. You might have to.
No. He's your older brother and she's your sister-in-law. So all good. No worries.
That actually works.
There we go.
So, wait, are you Spike's dad too then?
No, different marriage.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yes, all good. I got the plan. Totally taken care of.
Okay, yo, Spike's my brother on my white side.
There we go. Yes, exactly. That's what it is. 100%. All good. So yeah. So no, the what did you think about what Justin said? I think he said what he said what he feels is happening in Michigan, but also across the country. I think it's happening everywhere. New York State too.
I think he was right. I mean, I think he was right about everything he said, but what really stuck with me is his kind of hatred for the duopoly. And it means so much to me coming from somebody who was a major key player in the duopoly, somebody who was serving as a Republican, was in the House as a Republican. Like, it just means so much coming from him. And it makes me like, his words were really heavy because if he thinks that it's useless to be a Republican and he was a Republican lawmaker, it really makes me look inward and be like, dang, like, I don't know. I really like hearing what he has to say whenever I get a chance to see him speak. So that meant a lot to me that I got to sit here and watch it.
The thing that I want to be clear, just for clarity, he's not angry at Republicans. He's angry at the system that has made both parties do nothing. Just for clarity, right? I think he knows many Republicans and he likes many Republicans. He's friends with many Republicans. I don't think he doesn't like the Republican. I think it's the system that he feels is broken. And I agree. The system is, as him and I were talking about, the system's completely
I like
broken.
A lot of Republicans too. I've worked for a lot of Republicans, and it's the duopoly that bothers me. I have no problem with anyone being a Republican or voting Republican. It's just like, why are there only two choices? Why is it like this? Why are the two choices basically not even two choices, basically one? Like, it's there's a lot of questions.
I like what finger you chose to use for the one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I honestly didn't do that.
No, that was a Freudian slip. I got you. That was good. I like that.
Sorry.
But I wasn't going to notice. I did. That's good.
No, I didn't.
So John says, Justin is at his best when he's off the cuff and not on a prepared speech. John, I want to bring up an important piece you just mentioned. The number one piece you just mentioned is look at Almost every show and every guest you see me bring on, none of them are prepared. It's always just talking. When Olivia comes on, she's just talking. When I'm on, I'm just talking. Justin, Spike, they were all just, Hannah, we were all just talking. Think about that. The vast majority of any candidate, politician, activist, whatever, if they're left or right, it's a prepared speech with prepared talking points, and they bring those out and rarely ever take anybody else to even have a call or conversation, any back and forth. You've seen Olivia on the Sharp Way. She takes comments. I take comments. We just talk. We bring stuff up. Justin took comments. Just talking is what we did. Hannah did too. Why does that matter? Because we don't require anything prepared. We're just saying what we feel. What you're seeing is what you're getting. And wouldn't it be nice if the people you were voting for, you could actually believe in?
Oh my God, a candidate that doesn't rely on a teleprompter for everything or a speech writer, that's crazy. That's unheard of in politics, which is actually really, really sad. But to your point, I was super scared to even solo host the show the first time I did like a month ago or whatever, because I was like, oh my God, there's no script, there's nothing. There's this list of topics that I wanted to touch on, but nothing really, taking it in any type of direction except for the comments. And actually, I found it fun. I think it's easier to do when you're just going off the comments and the topics you picked in your head already. And also, it's like, I'm not talking about stuff I don't know about. I think a lot of politicians have a lot of trouble talking about things depending on like their skill set or their area that they're an expert in, which most politicians don't have any area they're an expert in. But they have so much trouble talking about things because they don't know about what they're talking about. So
yes,
yeah.
If you look at most candidates, and I don't mean this, I'm not attacking any individual candidate, but as a whole, most candidates, particularly Democrats, Republicans, most of them are airheads. And I don't mean that as a derogatory mean. I mean, it's a descriptor. Like they don't have anything in their head. They don't have to. All they talk about is rhetoric. They yell about culture war. That's all they do. Democrats yell, Republicans hate minorities. Republicans are racist. Republicans yell, Democrats are socialist, and they're also anti-racist. Whatever. That's all they do back and forth. They scream about culture war. When the people they talk to their own people to raise money. They spend most of their time just raising money, nothing else. So they don't have to. So why would you learn stuff when you don't get any hard questions? And if you do, your answer is a rhetorical 101 that's off of a cue card. So it's much easier to do it that way. So I think the system, again, duopoly allows that to happen. If any of you happen to watch that debate that I was in, that I showed earlier, I was actually giving actual policies and answers. The other people were going, it's bad, it's good. That's all. That's all they were doing. So I think you're right. Most of them, sadly, are airheads.
I keep saying this, but the day a libertarian gets on the presidential debate stage is the day, that's the year we're going to have a libertarian president. That I don't think that in a general election debate between the Democratic nominee, the Republican nominee, and the Libertarian nominee, I don't think that the Republican or Democrat will come out of that being the winner. I genuinely don't. I think libertarians can argue better. I think they're more principled. I think they have to be more principled because they don't have this huge giant party that will make all the lines up for you, behind you. I just think that I think that their ideas are much more convincing, because it's crazy to me that people don't even know what libertarians are. And if somebody in the mainstream does think they know what they are, they're like, aren't those people that hate roads? Don't they want to
yes, exactly.
Don't they want like kids to be shooting up heroin with no roads and no schools and guns everywhere? Like, they just literally don't know what it is. And it's not really their fault because they've been fed lies and propaganda, and we're just not on the debate stage. They're just not being presented with it. And so I literally feel like the day that people find out what libertarians actually are is the day we'll have a libertarian president.
I hope you're right? I hope my goal to be forward with you for 2024, I hope we win, obviously. But I would accept just getting some electoral votes. I want some gold on that map, because gold on the map changes the system. That's what it does. And for those who don't know, in New York,
where would you predict gold being on the map?
Maine, because they have multiple. They break up their electoral votes.
Okay.
Maine, Nebraska, Wyoming. Those are my three.
Really? Not New Hampshire at all?
I don't think so. New Hampshire's very Republican.
I just hear a lot of stuff about the Free State movement. I don't really know anything about it, though.
Many of them run as Republicans, though. That's what I think. That's what I believe. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's New Hampshire. But if you ask me to predict, one in Maine, one in Nebraska, and Wyoming. Those are my three that I think. But, you know, who knows? I hope it's the whole state, the whole country. That'd be amazing.
I would
hope the map will change things.
I would hope for Nebraska. Their governor is kind of a tyrant.
No, they break up the electoral votes.
I know. I understand that part. I just feel like the type of people that live there that vote for these types of tyrants that are already in office there. It's like Nebraska to me is not necessarily a super free state. I don't know a lot about it. I just don't picture a lot of libertarians being there in the first place.
Let me explain my logic behind it.
Okay, go ahead.
Wyoming, I think, is actually a libertarian state. That's why I think Wyoming. In Maine and Nebraska, they're not specifically libertarian. I pick it because they break up the electoral votes, which means we can focus all of our money on one of those areas. That's why. Not because they're particularly libertarian, but because they break up their electoral votes. It's a smaller group of people we have to convince to get one vote.
Okay, now I see what you're saying. Exactly.
That's why I think it'll be those two states. Not because the states are more libertarian, but because it's easier for us to put all our money and time and energy into a smaller area. That's the reason why.
Okay. Do you think libertarians will follow that strategy? Do you think that they're going to spend time and money in these?
If they want my team that I'm building out next year, then yeah, that's part of the deal. Yes. If they want my team that I'm building out, this amazing team I'm building out for my governor run, and they want that team, yeah, absolutely. They will do so.
Spike's being my dad in the comments.
He's being your older brother.
Okay. I'm sorry, Spike. Just before you got here, Larry was saying he's my dad, and I was like, yeah, he do be giving me dad speeches. But then I was like, wait, Spike's my dad. I don't know. Y'all gonna have to duke it out or whatever. I'm sorry.
So no, he's older brother.
All right. But no, I agree with you. Libertarians should listen to you, and they're gonna regret it if they don't.
There we go. Absolutely.
That's a threat.
No, I do think that's a big issue. Is getting that. But there's something else people don't realize here in New York State. Why this matters so much in New York State. Here's why it matters so much. How New York State rules are: the top two parties run the electoral, run the Board of Elections. The top two parties. So if I come in second as libertarian, the Republicans are kicked out of the electoral politics. Now that's not going to happen. They're going to just rewrite the rules, right? They're not going to go, great, Republicans are out. Not going to happen. They'll rewrite the rules, which will include third parties. So literally the rules will change if I come in second. Gold will be a normal part of New York State if I come in second. If gold is part of New York State, what else will happen? Ranked choice voting will happen. Open primaries will happen. Ballot access, easier ballot access will all happen. Once that happens in New York State, and again, this is if I come in second, not even first, all of that changes across the entire country, right? So this run, if it's successful at all, affects the entire nation.
This is so important.
The entire nation. And people know something else about me. You might say, Larry, well, what if you only come in third? What if that happens? I hope it won't happen. But if it does, as long as I get enough votes that matter, enough actual impact to where people care and want to watch what I'm saying, I'm popular enough, I'll take that popularity and then absolutely cross the country and help others. As you just saw Justin do for me, as you just see yourself doing for me, as you just saw, Spike doing for me and Hannah doing for me. Before I was running, that was me doing it for others. I was the one who went to somebody's place and raised money for somebody else. And many of you who are watching have seen me go and raise money for other people, literally tens of thousands of dollars for others. If I'm more popular, I'll raise more money and raise more for others. People see me do it already. So now you got me doing it, Spike doing it, Justin doing it, Hannah doing it, you doing it. Oh my God. All of us doing this will support the big bad presidential candidate in 2024, or the local candidate that we all want to get behind, maybe like a Ricky Harrington who's killing it in Arkansas or something like that. We'll all get there behind him. And all of a sudden now we'll have some actual victories and we'll change this country. As I said, I don't know if I'm going to be the guy to save the world, but can I be the guy to actually start this thing going? I think I can. I'm trying to.
When you word it like that, this seems like, obviously I already thought your campaign is super important and support you, but when you word it and break it down, like even if you come in second, you could just basically change everything. It's so important, people. It's so donate. Like it's so important. It's so integral to just everything. Everything he just listed.
Yes, and that's why it's that important. It's that important because it does affect everything else. New York State is the battleground state, right? It's the one, right? What happens in New York travels every place else, 100%. So I want to grab, if I can, one more of these, if I could. This one is another failure. There were so many failures. Another failure of New York State, and this is another area upstate New York too. And I was cold here too. So just so you guys shows how dedicated I was cold here also.
You know, I'm here in Cornhill Landing, looking at this riverfront. And it is cold today, but it's still a weekday. It's quiet, really quiet. Many places in Rochester I see are very quiet. The answer that I always hear is, well, we need more money to be put into these projects here, and that'll make things happen. Right now, the governor wants to put $50 million into the riverfront. We've done this before.
Yep.
We put millions, if not billions of dollars into projects. We've done it in Buffalo, DeWitt, here. We keep doing it, and we keep failing.
Yes.
Millions of taxpayer dollars. That'll fix it. We bribe people to come. That'll fix it. No, it's not. Once the bribes go away, the opportunities go away, if they were even here in the first place. When are we going to realize this is not the right answer? We have to break the habit of believing that bureaucrats and committees and panels can solve our problems. They can't. We have to stop believing that taxpayer money is the first and only answer to all our problems. It isn't. We have to stop believing that the old parties are going to become our saviors. They aren't. We have to break the status quo.
That's
now,
fine.
I bring that one up again because, again, this was 4 years ago. And I would ask if anybody voted for somebody else, did it get fixed? I would ask, was Cuomo or the Republican talking about the things I was talking about? No. No. So I could actually use some of these same ones and use them again, and they would still work. Like they still function.
Yeah, we don't
so
need
I guess
you going
what
out
Bob
in
is,
the cold anymore. We don't need you going out in the cold anymore. You look too cold. just reuse them.
Yes, absolutely. That's good. So that's good. Sam says, I have to say, I love the Rochester videos, but it makes me sad. Yes. Things here have only gotten worse. Just like the rest of the state. Larry's the governor of me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes. But yeah, that's really the issue, right? The issue is it's only gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. And I was kind of joking in the way I was kind of trying to show some of the same commercials. In theory, if things are getting better, then those commercials should no longer be valid, right? If the Democrats or Republicans had fixed these things or changed anything, all of my videos from 4 years ago should be invalid. And sadly, nothing's changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. So I know people think, Larry, do I really want to take my time and my money and my energy? Do I want to spend the time talking about you? Do I want to spend the time showing the videos? Yes, because sadly, they're timeless. They shouldn't be timeless. And I didn't think they were going to be timeless when I did them, right? I did all these off the cuff running around New York State. You know, I'll say something personal that, Justin brought this up. He said, I spent so much time, traveling that he missed some parts of his family growing up. And I remember when I was running for office, what hurt me so much, and it's so silly, but it was so important to me, is my oldest daughter was studying Spanish and I didn't know. And I'm like, I'm her father, and I didn't know she was studying Spanish. Why? I was traveling across New York State running for governor. And that little thing, I still think of it today. It bothers me so much, right? I'm her father. I should be involved in her schooling. I should be involved in what she's doing. I should know that. And I didn't. And it's so I get when Justin said I was gone, I was like, yep, I know. I felt the same thing. I felt terrible about that. I did over 300 events my last time I ran. Over 300. There's only 365 days in a year.
I'm like literally trying to calculate how you even managed to do that.
I did over 300 events during that campaign. Sometimes I was gone from my household for 9 days straight. Pack up a van, me and 2-3 people, out, come back 9 days later because I was all over the state. That's how much I was doing. Luckily now I'm much more known. Honestly, I don't have to go that crazy. But I thought it was the only way to learn and understand the state. I really wanted to. And man, I know the state very well. I know it very well. People always tell me, yep, you get it. You get it. But man, that was hard. So I say to myself, I'll go off and do this thing. But why? Why would I do it again? Because I think this time we can make real impact. I'm not just saying that. I think we can make real impact. And if you know what I did before and what I'm doing now, you know that if you actually support this campaign, you're getting someone who's not going to quit. Not going to quit. Going to keep going. The thing I joke about, I got my butt kicked in 2018. I got 2% of the vote. That's not great. That's a butt kicking. However, even with that, compared to other libertarians, it was amazing.
I was about to say 2% for libertarian. That ain't really a butt kicking.
In New York State, well, again, libertarians look at that as, wow, Larry, well done. You got 2% of the vote. You got over 100,000 votes. You got ballot access for the party. That's amazing. But non-libertarians, all they see is 2%. They don't see other things. They see 2% because they're accustomed to Democrats, Republicans who always get at least 30%, at least.
They don't even think about how unfair it is for a third party to run. They're just like, ha ha, 2%. But they don't think about all the extra hoops you as a libertarian have to jump through just to get ballot access and all that other stuff.
Absolutely correct. Yes, 100%. So that part of trying to, recover from 2% to the average person is difficult, right? The average person says you got a butt kicking, but here's my response. If you get your butt kicked and you don't learn anything, you just got a butt whipping. If you get your butt kicked, but you learn something, it's a lesson. And I took it as a lesson. That's why I kept going. That's why I'm doing it better now. That's why I have a better team. I have better ideas, better everything, because I learned. And for some people, me included, learning things the hard way is sometimes the only way I learn. So I learned something the hard way. It's all good. But the other issue why I was saying when Spike was on, why I'm so happy that Spike's still here, is because Spike's run. He's lost, but he now understands a whole lot better, and he didn't just walk away. And many times libertarians run, lose, and then walk away. And then we lose all of that institutional knowledge, all of that experience, but now we're keeping it, and now we can help others. So I'm sorry, I went a little bit long on that, but yes, that's what I was trying to achieve.
No, so. I get you completely, and I agree. And just the more I listen to you, the more I think that this is just the more important this is to me. And I think to anyone listening after you guys hear about what could be accomplished by just tossing $100. I mean, I think it's worth it. I think it's definitely worth it.
There we go. Avi says, Larry, do you really see yourself getting big endorsements again from Glenn Beck, Joe Rogan, Dave Rubin, and Austin Peterson like last time? Glenn Beck, yes. Joe Rogan didn't endorse me. He gave me time. I think he'll do it again. Yes, I think I'll be back on Joe Rogan. Yes, I do think I'll be back on Joe Rogan. He didn't endorse me. He just got me. He interviewed me. I think he'll do it again. But no, I don't think he'll endorse me. I don't think he did endorse me. I hope he does. Oh my God. Please, Albie, if you know something, I don't know. Please, if you know something, if you know somebody, please hook me up.
You're the one that wanted his show. What do you mean if you know somebody? You know him.
I'm just saying, but no, he's not doing it. I don't think he would do it. He hasn't done it, so I don't think he will. But yes, I'll be back on the show. Glenn Beck, yes, I think he will. Dave Rubin, did Dave Rubin endorse me? I don't remember. I don't think he did. I think he just interviewed me. So I think Austin Peterson would endorse me. I think he would. I mean, I haven't asked him yet, but I think he would. But yeah, so there's my opinion on those 4. So yes.
He said he did in the chat.
Say it again.
He said he did endorse you.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Maybe he did. I don't remember that part, to tell you the truth. I'm just, the funny part is, it's going to sound so weird for some of you. I didn't realize how big Joe Rogan would be. I didn't know.
Really?
Right? Yes. I knew he was popular, but I didn't know how popular.
I was watching him as a kid on UFC. I'm like a UFC fanatic, or I was as a kid, and that's how I grew up watching him. And then I heard of his podcast and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, like he does that too. I never watched Fear Factor or any of the other stuff he was on, but I was like,
that's what I knew him from Fear Factor.
Fear Factor? Yeah, you old. But
I'm old. What do you want? Exactly. I remember him from Fear Factor. I don't remember that. Yes.
But I think JRE is so big because he is like the voice for like the silent majority. I know that's so old, and that's such a cliche to say the silent majority, but I think it's demonstrated by the fact that JRE got so big because he's that one voice. He's independent. You know, he can't really be canceled. I don't think he can be canceled just because he's so popular in media, and he'll always land on his feet wherever he goes. But it's like he's the voice of people who like aren't for the vaccine mandates, and he's the voice of people who like don't support the duopoly. He's the voice of people who just want to question things a little bit more than we're allowed to. So I guess that's why he's so popular.
Yes, but I didn't know that. So literally, I flew in that morning. True story, guys. I flew in that morning. I never met him before, never talked to him before. So I go in, I'm sitting in his equivalent green room. This is before he was in Texas. He was in California at this point. Now he's in Texas. Then he was in California. So I come in, I sit down in the room, chill out. He comes in like, we was going at whatever, 2. He came in at like 2:05, whatever. And he literally says, "Sharp here." And I went, "Yeah." He said, "Great." He went inside. I went inside. He put his headphones on. I put my headphones on, and we started. That was it. Literally, he then said, 3, 2, 1, Larry Sharp. Done. That's how it started. We went about 2 hours. Afterwards, we shot pool for like 2 seconds. And then I had to get on the plane and come back to New York.
Wow. Yeah, he's a big deal. I need to get on some more podcasts like that. I need to get on there. Hey, you're the one that knows him. You got to get me on there. I
got to get you on. You got to come on. You got to come on with me, then. That's what it is. But come on.
Oh my God, yes. Just be like, yo, Joe, this is my daughter. She's gonna sit right here.
Right. Yes. Yo, you're happy with my daughter now. When it comes to Joe Rogan, now you're happy with my daughter, right? Now you have. Oh yeah, you're so my father. Now I am. Okay, I see how you are. Okay. So, yes.
If this is not just to get me more famous, I don't know what this is for. So don't.
I love it. I love it. It's all good. At least we're honest here. We're honest. That's all I care about. I like that. We're honest. It's all good. All good. Right. Yes. So, but yeah, that's true. The funny part about the Joe Rogan piece, which I liked so much, is the amount of young men, particularly, who would recognize me from Joe Rogan. So I'd be, upstate New York or something, and somebody would drive by and go, "Larry Sharp, Joe Rogan," like something like that. They would drive by from the car and yell at me or something like that. So that was good. "Regulate like onions." They would yell that at me as they're driving by. That still happens. Say again?
The amount of like young, like college age dudes that watch all these podcasts because they feel like they can't post what they think on social media or really talk about with any of their friends. It's crazy. The amount of like young guys, the amount of interactions I've had exactly like that who saw me on Tim Pool's podcast has been insane. I think it's like a similar viewer base that watched Tim Pool and watched Joe Rogan. And I've been recognized so many times from Tim Pool, more than I've been recognized from like literally anything else. It's crazy.
All right. So if I get you on Joe Rogan, you got to get me on Tim Pool then.
Yeah. Okay.
Done. Easy swap.
Done. Easy.
So yes.
Easy.
So yeah. Easy swap. So yeah. No. That was true. However, to be fair with you, when it came to donations, more money came from Dave Rubin and that podcast than came from Joe Rogan, because the audiences are different, right? The audience of Joe Rogan is not a political audience. It's also a younger audience with not as much money, not as interested, not accustomed to donating. It's a different audience. Dave Rubin's audience was an older audience that was more politically inclined. So that audience had more money and cared more about politics. So even though it was a smaller, at that point, Dave Rubin was probably about 1/10 of Joe Rogan, give or take. I don't know what he is now, but he was about 1/10 back then. And even though there were far more people watching Joe Rogan, I actually raised more money from the Dave Rubin interview than I did from a Joe Rogan interview, which is funny, but it was different.
It's those old classically liberal gay men. They just
is that what it is?
I think they just have a lot of money. Yeah,
I need to go find more of them then, huh? Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
I
That's
think
it.
they
Yes.
just have a lot of money.
There it is. I got to do that. That's my problem. That's my new demographic. So yes.
Old gay people are rich, dude. You just got to tap into that.
There we go. That's my new demographic. I love it. So I think that was important for that, but my social media exploded from Joe Rogan. I mean, I think at that point, my YouTube page was probably about 12,000 people on it. And it went to 25,000 in like a week and a half. Like it doubled in a week and a half of subscribers. Just huge. It was massive. So when it came to social media growth, Joe Rogan was the biggest one-time hit I ever had, social media growth. But dollars was actually Dave Rubin. But my most popular one that I like the most of all my interviews, believe it or not, Glenn Beck. The Glenn Beck interview was a very friendly, personal interview.
Really?
Right? Because Glenn Beck and I are friends. So it was like two friends talking. The other ones were more like interviews. Like I really didn't know Dave Rubin. I didn't really know Joe Rogan at all, but I already knew Glenn Beck. So it was much easier. That actually is my favorite interview. And if people want me to show them an interview, I always send them the Glenn Beck one because that was much more of a friendly interview back and forth. So yeah, that's why I'm saying, as Avi's asking, I'm pretty sure I'll head back on Glenn Beck again. I don't think it's a problem. You're going to get me on Tim Pool, so that's done. So
no, I'm literally going to ask Lydia. I'm literally going to ask the producer if they can have you on. Because
there we go. See, easy day. I absolutely love it. Yes. So yeah. So I think we can make this happen because once that happens, to your point, Avi, I know why you were saying this is because once this happens, things keep getting bigger and bigger, right? The best way we can grow is through the social media aspect because social media then eventually turns into regular media. It's how it works, right? Enough social media turns into regular media. And also it's the money. If you start raising money, and I wish it wasn't true, but for those of you who don't know, how do you get covered in mainstream media? You buy ads. That's how you do it. You buy ads. So if we raise money, we buy ads, we get covered. That's how it works. So then we get into mainstream media. If you add mainstream media and social media, now we got a game plan. So let me see how we're doing, by the way, speaking about raising money. More coming. Thank you. Oh, okay. We made our numbers. I had one very large donor. So guys, I had one very large donor.
That just covered the rest of it?
Correct. Yes. Yes. We made our numbers. Guys, please keep giving.
You're like super chill about that. How are you not like, woo?
I'm happy. It's good.
Okay.
Good thing. I'm very happy. Guys, thank you so much. We have made our numbers. I appreciate that very much. This is very good. We're going to be, yes. We're going to have a good, I hope very good report coming up here in January. So if that report comes out good, that people see it, they like it, it's good, they'll be impressed. We'll get more press, we'll get more people paying attention, and we'll be able to get some good polling. That's what I really want to achieve. Better and better polling. Sadly, for good or for bad, people still believe polls. They do.
I just don't understand how after 2016, after 2020, it's just like,
they do.
Why? What do you gain from it?
They do. Guys, if you want to help me buy that poll, please support to the best of your ability. LarrySharp.com/Larry-thon. Help out. We made our numbers, but we could always make more. We could always do more. We can always do better. I appreciate this completely. Yes, it's good. Yes, Dottie's saying, yeah, it's a 40% of goal. Yeah, it was one huge donor. Yes, it was. Yes.
That's crazy.
It was a 5-figure donor.
Woo!
Yes.
That is awesome.
Yes. For those of you who don't know how this works, I spend so much time cultivating small donors because the small donors is how I survive, right? The average donation last time was about $85 or so in a $500,000 campaign. But there were some people who gave me 5 figures. So, I think my biggest donor gave me $29,000, my biggest donor. Some gave me 20, 15, 12, 8. So people gave me different chunks of cash. But that was probably 10 or 12 people gave me 5 figures. Everybody else gave me less. And again, my average was $85. So I focus on that because the person, to be forward, the person who writes a check for 10 grand for me, I'm happy for that person. Thank you. But they write that check and they go about their business. It's being forward. They write a check, go with the business. The person who writes that check for $100 or $500 or even $1,000, that person's in. That person really helps. That person also shares. That person tells their friends. That person's critical in getting all the votes. While I need the person to give me 10,000, thank you, but that person writes a check and then they're gone. I won't see them for 6 months, which is fine. Please keep doing it if you have the money.
You sound like you're running from the money. You sound like you don't want the 10,000.
No, I want it. Please give it. But the money's great. But the votes and the grassroots are the way to victory. If that makes any sense, right? The votes and the grassroots are the way to real change, right? That is really important that we're able to do that. So everything you guys can give, thank you so much. It's critical. I'm very happy we got big donors. That's awesome. Very good. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. Olivia, you want to say anything before we wrap up?
Just shout out to Larry for having me back on and having me on the show every Thursday. I'll be back next Thursday. You guys should also subscribe to the Sharp Way channel if you haven't already. I also put up weekly videos, just me talking to the camera. Sometimes I go out and interview people and go to events. It's pretty cool. And also, if you don't already follow me on social media, I'm Olivia Rondeau on all platforms. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I just made a Minds account. I'm also on YouTube as well.
You are not playing games. You are on like everything. I love it. Yes. Yep. Yes, absolutely. I'm also on all the things, as you guys know. As always, I appreciate everything you guys have done. I appreciate all the help. And I hope that for those of you who gave, thank you so much for those that you have. I hope you see that I'm not giving up. I hope you see it as an investment, and that as you invest, so do I. As I've mentioned before, I've stopped working. So that means I'm doing this. I'm bleeding. You're bleeding. We're bleeding together. So we can try to fix not just New York State. I want to fix this state desperately. You all know I do. But if we fix New York, we actually change the nation. If we change the nation, we change everything. If you look at how a lot of people see our country now outside of our country, they don't see us as a functioning democracy anymore. We're not that shining city on a hill that my first commander-in-chief, Ronald Reagan, said we were supposed to be. That's not what we are right now. I'd like us to be that. And I think that starts in our largest city, in the state that holds the largest city, which is New York State. As we move forward in this city, in this state, the rest of the nation will follow because they'll see it can be done here. If we can turn New York State gold, we can turn any state gold. That's the most important piece. Guys, thank you so much for today. Olivia, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I will see you all very soon.